This is MPFM 93.7.
Being all the fight, all the hate, all the lies.
93.7 MPFM.com.
Tufune kati wonna woli osobola okutuwuliriza wonna woli.
It's a click and listen.
Changu nnyo downloadinga app yaffe Radio MBFM otuwuliriza butereevu ku www.radiombfm.com. Radio MBFM.com, a home away from home.
The Banyankore Kweterana International, in partnership with Housing Finance Bank, present the first annual convention under the theme Skilling the Youth this Friday on 30th June to Sunday 2nd July at Hilton Woodland Hills, adjacent to the Warner Center, Los Angeles. Banyankore and all well wishers, this is our time to come and share ideas, have fun, connect with so many activities and clear entertainment by our very own Ray G, Phoebe Ashaba, Big Spender, and comedians like Pablo Comedy Vibes, accompanied by cultural performances like Ekitaguro and Michoboro. Not forgetting business investment workshops to help improve Ankole youth livelihood and promoting economic growth in the Ankole nation, demonstrating Ankole's culture, customs, and heritage with cultural skits. We shall also have Housing Finance Bank discussing with us products including real estate, access to mortgages, plus life and medical insurance for diaspora families and account opening. Don't miss visiting Los Angeles points of interest like Hollywood Studios, Hollywood Walk of Fame, Beverly Hills, plus Santa Monica Beach. Registration goes for $250 adults, $150 for youths aged 12 to 18 years, children free, and $195 for hotel accommodation with discount of $50 off for a coupon from Housing Finance Bank. Register now through our website www.bkicommunity.org or call plus 1-818-398-3619 for inquiries and bookings. Sponsored by Golden Kitchen, Housing Finance Bank, MBFM Events, Bantu Fest, Farmers Insurance, Nash Events, Florence for Youth in Action, Saraiga Insurance, and Wakerzi.com. Come, let's celebrate Ankole's rich culture.
We can specialize, we can specifically tap into to enhance investment back home. Look at, for example, the milk that we produce. How many of us are processing? You find that we are doing raw milk. We have to wait for the likes of, I don't want to mention them here, to be the ones to come and pick. We have how many processing companies? There are like 5 in the region. Yet we have a lot of milk that goes even wasted. We cannot process it all the way. If we have these factories or these investments within our region, we would add value addition. We get value addition out of everything. So we have to focus on creating value addition as people in the diaspora, even us within the country, because really the environment is very conducive. Maybe more, I don't know how much time, I was not told how much time I have. We look at, within the ICT space, I like to look at the ICT space because I've grown and worked in it. I've been within the public sector for quite some time, especially within the IT space. Government has laid the infrastructure, it's available. However, while it's like doing the road for you. If you don't have those trucks that are going to export, import, produce, and drive through, that means that the roads that they've put to use are put to waste. So while government is laying the fiber optic cable, while they're providing internet across or changing the curriculum to include ICT or IT to enhance it within our schools, how about tapping into those skills like I've said earlier, specialize them, and then create something like BPO centers, business processing out centers. How much work is done in government or outsourced, or you who are in the diaspora? How much work do you think you can bring? You guys right now, it's night here, it's morning your time. It's by the time you wake up, you find the work there. So how can you tap into, because Mbara University, for example, I will focus on Mbara University School of Science and Technology because they've done a lot of innovations in there. They have a vast young people that is skilled and can do that. How can we tap into that? So as we talk about investment, Madame Chantal, I think those are some of the few things because we have the raw materials, I like, these days the president said we produce for a chida chonka. But I tell you, the cows that we produce have a lot of value addition that we can go through. The agriculture produce, all the cash crop, well, not even necessarily the cash crop, all the food crops that we produce can be packaged and exported. Thank you, Madame Chantal. I will just stop there for now.
Obrigado. Thank you, Gloria. And we still have you online because we have Q&A session coming. I still have questions coming in. If you have any question for Gloria, please send it forward. You can send it to me or Sandra or on the WhatsApp group. But I still continue to tell you that we are going to have our keynote speaker, Honorable Kateshumbwa Dixons, and he'll be joining us soon. I know, Gloria, you went through your presentation. Unfortunately, we are not able to see the presentation, but those were good remarks and telling us how we can enhance the available skills that we have. We have skilled youth, we have skilled people. These skills need to be enhanced, and thank you for teaching us and telling us how best we can enhance those existing skills. And for those parents that are in-house today watching us online, we have these resources. The resources are out there. We only need to go and look for those resources and how to impact our youth as we enhance their skills. Eminyeto yitu ni chimanyangu nebamako semkono konkana venda konjera kubejesa konjera kuba to prepare them okuba tebekanisa okubejesa okuba kubasa kosemkono ebimwene babyego mu ishomero konka kuba kuheza ishomero. They need to be taught how to put into practice these skills. And thank you so much, Gloria, for giving us that that education on how we can help our youth. Konkantuza kubuza ba youth ababi nemyaka ba youth abani ba hinanye and youth ning. But of course, omuntu wena omunyeto haza nimwe mukiriye minyeto, and you can use your skills to impact the world, to impact communities. And as a culture community of BKI of Banyankole and other Banyankole well-wishers, this is very, very informative. Right with me online, we have Honorable Kateshumbwa, who's going to give us his presentation, but I'm going to briefly go through his bio. Tonight we have our keynote speaker, Mr. Honorable Kateshumbwa Dickens, Member of Parliament, Shema Municipality. He went to Nganwa High School and Derea School. He has a Bachelor's of Commerce from Delhi University and a Master's in Business Administration at Skemmanipo University of Health. He was a huge asset in Uganda Revenue Authority, and he served in several capacities. He was eventually promoted to Commissioner Customs and Assistant Commissioner Audit, a position that he held until he was elected the chairperson of the World Customs Council. And in 2021, he won the race of Member of Parliament, Shema Municipality, and currently serves on different committees in Parliament. And as he's also an entrepreneur. Among other things, he owns several cottages in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and he's a great asset tonight who'll be sharing with us how we can invest back home as people in the diaspora. I know he's a living testimony because he's already an entrepreneur. He's already a member of parliament who knows about the policies, who knows about the laws, and who knows more of how, as diaspora, the requirements we need for us to be able to invest back home. Honorable Kateshumbwa, I don't know if you're ready, but you're most welcome. In a brief intro, can you please introduce yourself, and then you'll take us direct to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. I greet everyone who is listening in. I hope I'm audible enough. And
yes,
I thank you for inviting me. I hope I am, it's night time here. And so I hope I'm appropriately dressed because I just came from my golf game. Now, regarding the subject we are discussing, investing in Ankole, I would like first of all to set my remarks in context. First of all, there are so many misconceptions about Ankole, first of all. The major misconception we have had and we deal with on a daily basis is that for us in Ankole, we are very okay and things are fine. This is the attitude we encounter even in Parliament amongst our colleagues from other areas. But I would like to tell you that as a member of Parliament, we have, and unless we have set our standards so low, but we have a lot of problems, and these problems require us to find solutions. And the problems rotate around, issues of poverty, issues of prosperity, jobs. And so the answer to all those is the subject matter we are discussing, which is investment. And just talk about investment. When you want to invest, what are the key considerations that you have to look at from a financial point of view? There are basically 3 boxes that you must tick. If you are in the diaspora there, you want to invest in Ankole, there are 3 boxes which you have to first tick. The first is the capital required. How much money do you have? For any business, if you are going to invest, you have to have some savings aside as a starting point. And definitely, from the savings you can build on by looking at the additional capital requirements and approaching financials. So the diaspora, I know that many people in the diaspora work very hard. As the diaspora, it's I think the second contributor to our foreign exchange earnings in Uganda. So you have an opportunity to save and build up capital for investment as the first box, but not the most important box. The most important box is the idea or the concept that you have. Now, the second consideration is the return on investment. How much do you expect to return? If you invest 100 million, how much would be the return on investment? Is it 10%, 20%, 15%? Obviously, Ankole, like any other part of Uganda, we still have very, very good returns if you have a viable investment. So you find that on average, you can easily net a 20-25% return on investment. So it is viable to invest. The third consideration is the payback period. How long does it take for you to repay? If you invested 100 million, how long will it take you to get the money back? Of course, most people confuse business and what I would call assets. Most people in the diaspora, I have seen and have heard, they send money to build houses as a business. But of course, you'll find that if you are building rentals, the payback period is much longer than other businesses. So you have to consider if you have money that you would like to recoup within the next 10 years, 5 years, then you must think about the business that will give you an opportunity to recoup that money in a period that you are comfortable with. So, having said that, my professor in India used to tell us in class that if you are going to start a business, there are 4 decisions that you must look at. Number 1 is the investing decision. Number 2, the financing decision. Number 3, the dividend decision. And number 4, the operating decision. So, for any business, you must think about how much money you will need, the idea, which is the investing decision, what do you intend to do? Most people invest by impulse because someone is doing a business, so someone thinks that he can do the same business without looking at the viability, without doing any research. So I would like to encourage people, if you want to invest in any business, whether it's in Ankole, you must first do research and make sure that you have a viable proposal, a bankable business proposal. Do not just go and invest because someone is doing it. Otherwise, you might find yourself in a problem. And invest in something that you have experience or you have passion about. If you have passion, but you have no experience, you will build on it and learn along the way. If you have experience without passion, you will get it along the way. So the most important decision is the investing decision, the investing decision, not the financing decision. If you have a bad idea, it doesn't matter how much money you put in, the returns will not come. The operating decision is how you intend to operate. Now, if you are in the diaspora and you want to invest, most people have relied on relatives and they end up getting disappointed. So you must think through how do you intend to invest. I'm telling you this not as a background. I don't want just to tell you come and invest without giving you the things that you must take care of. So the operating decision is, do you have time to give this business? How do you monitor it? Technology has come now. There's a lot of monitoring that is done through technology systems. Of course, you have to employ professionals and make sure that the business is operating on a professional footing. Of course, the dividend decision is separation of being able to account for your profits and pay yourself back. And that is linked to the return on investment. Most people, of course, they run business and they do not separate income from profit. So you find someone is drawing out money, is drawing out income, using it, and at the end of the day, is depleting his capital. After a few months, the business does not have the capital. The financing decision is about the money that you need to invest. Now, having said that, Ankole, what is our value proposition? First of all, abantu mwena who are listening from Ankole, I have traveled around the world. I know there are opportunities out there, but home is always the best. At the end of the day, your final resting place is home. If you have relatives, you have people, it is your home. There is no way you can feel home away from home. So I would like to encourage you that we have to come back home and do something. Ankole, our value proposition, what is it that we have that can actually give us an advantage? Number one is that we have land. Our land in Ankole is largely free from the land conflicts that we witness in this country. There are certain parts of the country where you find that land is just there idle. It is communal land and no one is investing in it. In some parts, like in northern region. The advantage we have in Ankole is that, land is available, but mostly owned by people. So even when you buy the land, you will use it. You will not have the community to harass you. Of course, there are parts of Ankole where the land is very small. Like Shema, like Rushenyi, we do not have expansive land for example, large-scale cattle farming, unlike in other parts like Nyabshozi, Kashari, etc. So the question now, having the land, the question should be about productivity. Because I have visited farms abroad where you have someone with 4 acres, but the yield is yielding much more than someone who has 20 acres in Uganda. So land is available. It is about how productively we can use it by employing, organic fertilizers, etc., to make sure that we have output. So that's the first thing we have. We have water. We are not a stressed area like say, compared to certain parts of the country. At least there is water. We have an opportunity to even store our water. The third one is, of course, the biggest advantage that we have is the proximity, the market proximity to the neighboring countries like DRC, Congo, Rwanda, and Burundi. So if you have something that is produced in Ankole, it is very easy for you to have it in DRC. You are not going to compete with someone who is transferring, say, the same products from Mukono to DRC, while for you just have to drive it from Bushenyi all the way to the border in a very short distance. So we have that big market, and it's a very big opportunity. Finally, I think one of the ladies spoke about it, the human resource. We have very many young people who are educated, but I want to add, sometimes not skilled, not adequately skilled, but at least they are educated. So you have to, it's a very big advantage for us that you would have at least people to work for the business. So Ankole presents itself as an area where we can actually do a lot. Now, what areas would you be looking at for consideration? Like many other parts in Uganda, the biggest area that is still a very big opportunity is the area of agriculture. We still have agriculture dominating in terms of how many people rely on it. But the biggest problem we have with agriculture, with our practices, especially in Ankole and other parts, is that we do not do what the president normally calls a chibaro, the calculation. We just know, you just plant, and you get the yield, but you do not properly calculate if you planted this crop against this crop, which one would give you a better yield. So people like in the diaspora who are exposed, you have been exposed, you have better, you have maybe new ideas in terms of commercial agriculture. it's an open area. Of course, livestock farming, we still have milk, produced in Ankole. We can even do more. In fact, Uganda is the second largest producer of milk in Africa. It is only South Africa that beats us. But Uganda is up there, and we still have the potential. So in Ankole, if you have a small piece of land, you can actually start even just modern, small scale, dairy farming. But in addition to that, the dairy sector in Uganda, we add value. Of course, we export the milk, but we have not exhausted value addition. For example, we still import cheese in this country. I think we can do better if we produce more of our own cheese. We now produce butter. So someone who sets up a milk, value addition plant in Angola and produces cheese, then you will have produced for the DRC Congo, because Congo imports cheese from France and Brazil and all the way to Angola. So you would have a very, very big opportunity for that. We have opportunity for poultry and other animals, but of course, also fruits and vegetables. Most of our land is still fertile, so you can produce fruits, you can produce fruits, and even look at value addition in terms of how you can process, maybe dry the fruits for export. When you go abroad, you find supermarkets with dried stuff. I just returned from Brussels, and when you go to a supermarket, I went to a supermarket, you find snacks of, dried fruits from different parts of the world. So if someone wanted to invest in value addition, in, for example, drying the fruits, looking at even processing some of our other byproducts, like the banana fiber, you can actually add value and produce rugs and carpets for export to different parts of the world. I think, in fact, these ones are on high demand because of the sustainability, the issues of environmental, environmental considerations, that they can easily be biodegradable. So things like banana fiber, you can actually add value beyond just selling the matoke, but being able to look at the stem and look at it in terms of money, how much money you can make. Of course, we are now promoting wine out of matoke. Just one big bunch of matoke in Shema during my campaigns. People are selling them at 500 shillings, 1,000 shillings. I think even now the price is around 1,500. So for someone to buy a pair of shoes of 30,000, he needed to have sold, more than 20 bunches of matoke. But if you process that bunch of matoke, you'll get 8 liters of wine, and each liter is sold at 10,000. So that's about 80,000 shillings from just a bunch. And if you go ahead and also process the stem, you get fiber, you get a wool. This thread can be used for rugs. They have used it for hair, for the ladies who want to do this long hair extension. They have used it for even making shirts and and garments. So that's a very big opportunity for value addition. Now, of course, there are other products like coffee where we do not do a lot of value addition here. So people in the diaspora, you can look at this as a very big opportunity and see the opportunities available for us to export coffee that is processed. Of course, I've talked about vegetables, etc., but generally, the opportunities around exportation. You can start a business and actually be able to import. If you are in America, what do the laws say? Can the law allow you to import? I have seen Ugandans in the UK. I was in Belgium. Were eating matoke daily, in Belgium. Nuts, people import. So you could be there in the diaspora. Think about the export opportunities that are available. What can you actually take to the US market? Of course, I cannot fail to talk about tourism. Tourism is another big potential. Of course, in Ankole, we still have limited tourism products, but of course we are trying to develop different products like the cultural tourism, the aspects of the hot springs in Chitagata. Of course, when you go to Munyaruguru, it's still largely part of Ankole. We have tourist destinations. So it is still an area where you can actually invest from the diaspora. If you do a study, you can come and invest. I have invested in tourism. But even beyond, you may look at where do you start from. If you are in the US, for example, most of us who are looking for tourists, in the US, you could be a Ugandan operating in the US. Maybe you could think of starting a destination marketing business. Can you be the one that is looking for the clients to come to Uganda and being able to organize tours and then organize circuits? All those are opportunities that we can create. And, tourism has a very long value chain. A tourist who arrives in Kampala, immediately they arrive, there is someone who starts earning. And if they leave Kampala, they are living with a driver, they go through Mbarara, they will stop at Igongo, look at the eclipse, look at the culture, there is someone earning. They go through Shema, the women who sell handcrafts will earn. The one who has eggs and the one who has chicken will be able to sell to the hotel. In Shema now we started processing meat products. We call Shema cuts. And our market is largely the tourists, the hotels which are in the tourist areas. So if tourism grows, it creates a lot of opportunities for the people within the agriculture sector, within the livestock sector. And that economy is interlinked with many others. So finally, as I try to conclude, the diaspora, we have a very big advantage. The longest I've lived abroad was when I was a student doing a bachelor's degree in India and master's. So 5 years. When you live abroad for 5 years, 10 years, the most important thing, in my opinion, is that you must be able to transform yourself from how you went and why you went, and with time, you transform yourself and result into something different. So if you went into the US, look for a job, and you have got it very well, very well. It helps you to do what? To save money and build up your capital. But I would like to encourage you to think about entrepreneurship. If you went and you are working, and you could look at exploring, the transition from being a worker to an entrepreneur by looking at all these opportunities I've talked about. What do the people want in the US? If you go to the supermarkets and you see what are the products that are coming, if you go on Amazon, all these online, what are the products that are coming from Africa? How can we get our products from Uganda, from Banyankore, into into the supermarkets in the US or into the online stores? So be there, study, look at the opportunities available, look at the laws, and think about that transition of you. You could even carry them along, because being employed does not mean that you don't do the business. That is a very big mindset problem here, that you cannot be a successful businessman when you are working even in government. But that's a negative perception that is retarding our growth. So don't go and just focus on work, but look at the opportunities available and think about how we can take advantage. I think I would like to end here, but I see a comment from someone asking me about the cottages in Queen Elizabeth. Of course, as I have mentioned, he's asking how do we get discounts when we bring tourists? For tourism, it's all about commission. So if you have a company in the US and you market, we sign an MOU with you, and then we give you the rates that have a margin, for you to earn, good money. That's how it works. And you could actually be a very big promoter of tourism by being able to talk about Uganda. There is no beautiful place in this world better than Uganda. This one I have confirmed. Maybe I've not exhausted the whole world, but Uganda is the best place to be, right from the culture, the environment, the people, the food, everything, we have it here. And so it is very easy for you to sell it. And if you are interested, to work with us, Sandra has my contact. My sister Sandra, she can inbox you, and then we can always discuss business. I want to end here and thank you very much, and look forward to hearing any questions or clarification that are needed from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kateshumba. Bantu mobugaro bwa keynote speaker. Obugaro bwa man mnonga monjero bugaro. Honorable, thank you so much for taking us back on how we can invest back home, specifically in Ankole. Yatugambira nebiche bitukubasa ku investingamo, but most importantly yatugambira what do we need for us to be able to invest. I know we are almost on the top of the hour, but I have questions for you, Honorable. And one of the questions goes, please let us know some products that we can bring in the country that does not require taxes, because taxes are very high. For example, agricultural machines. Thank you, from Reverend Onesimus. For you, Honorable Kateshumba.
Well, first of all, for products that can come here without tax, we have to understand that Uganda has transformed itself. It's no longer the Uganda we had 10, 20 years ago, which was largely consuming what is coming from abroad. When I was the head of customs, I used to have a problem with people from the diaspora loading stuff and coming here and finding that it does not actually make sense for you to bring the product because you'd make a loss. So if you are bringing manufactured products, you must be very, very careful, calculate the costs and be sure. For example, many people in the diaspora may not know that now we produce a lot of tiles and we actually export tiles to Kenya, about 300 containers a month. So if you are going to import tiles here, you'll find that you will have to pay a lot of tax and sometimes it's not necessary. But if you are looking at luxury, then you can bear the burden. But in terms of the intermediate or machinery for agriculture, the legal regimes that we have actually exempt machinery. Machinery for processing, for agriculture, most of the machines are exempted because they are capital in nature, and you can get the details if you visited the websites of the Ministry of Finance or URA. You could easily get those details of what is exempted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Obugado. We still have questions coming in. I know I still have questions for Miss Helen, but I have a question from one sheriff, but I would ask you to come, or doctor, to come just close here and ask your question. Thank you. But in the meantime, tugirango ankore hariyo butaka, ankore hariyente, MP ninza kwijana nyakire ente yanje, na nobutaka tubase kwija to invest. Monte Obugado bantu mwe. Okay, doctor, your question.
Thank you very much. Honorable, I'm Dr. Davis Cash, and congratulations for having managed to be in politics, from revenue now to politics. You mentioned about land scarcity in Shema, and some areas there's abundant land. What strategies are you having with the ever-growing population that is not controlled? You know, you find homes more than 3 people and the land is scarcity. And population against land, you're going to have a lot of conflict. I'm in Arizona and I've seen farms on 2 acres, about 5,000 animals. And they're being fed without having a big chunk of land. What strategies do you have to introduce such systems in your area whereby, like, you have a lot of banana plantation, you can transform them into animal feeds such that animals can be grazed on the zero way? You talked about skills development. That is the question some time back I asked the president. And he said they were trying to create them all over the country, vocational schools and everything. You have educated people, but they have no skills. So what's the problem? Is it the problem that resources are not enough? Or the people involved in education are not doing the right job to make sure that skills are well transformed? My view would be that skills should be part of education as they're still in school, other than having them graduate and then you educate them skills. So in your constituency, what are you planning to do? Are you reversing the trend, or you follow what is taking place? And lastly, I wanted to know about investment into property, especially, we know all of us, we don't stay in our village. When we come only for Christmas, I guess so, and other days. But we struggle to find where to stay. What is being done to make sure that we have internal tourism, whereby even those who live within the country can enjoy their own country other than struggling and scampering to find how to enjoy? Thank you.
Honorable, those are your questions. I don't know if you're still there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, on the issue of land scarcity, of course, Uganda is not increasing. We are not, we are not annexing any territory other than our land. And our population currently, 46 million, is projected to be around 75 in the next 20 years. So the population is increasing, but the land is not increasing. And the population is largely dominated by young people. 70% are below 30 years. So we have a problem of fragmentation of land. You know, the old custom of someone has died, then he divides the land to the children. And that's what the president has been discouraging people, saying if you have land, 5 acres, instead of dividing them and everyone gets half an acre, can you put them into, common enterprise, and then you put a business? So what is the way forward? The way forward is in the modernization of agriculture, using best practices that would increase productivity. Like you have mentioned, if you have 1 acre, how can you productively use it to make sure that it gives you the yield? And that is where now the modern aspects of say fertilizer, irrigation, all these are being considered. Government is now investing in water for irrigation, but the private sector, you people in the diaspora, you are exposed. When you visit those farms, you can copy and tell us what are the new tricks. So it's not just government, but it's also a responsibility of people in business. People have been exposed. In terms, the second issue about skills and what we are doing about it, it is true, our education system, which is British background, teaches people that they must go to school, get a degree, put on a tie, and go and work in the bank. We have a problem of attitude. If you are looking for plumbers, if you are looking for, in our sector, in tourism sector, we struggle to get baristas. But a barista, for a good barista to get him, you'll pay him about 2 million, or at worst 1.5 per month. But that is more than someone earns in a bank. But you find that you cannot get to encourage someone that, I would like you to consider this as a profession. So that's a conversation that is ongoing. In Shema, I have been telling parents, the child gets very, very poor grades at senior 6. And then you tell the parent, yes, can we get a scholarship for this child in a technical institute? And he learns, electrical, he learns plumbing, but you find that the parent is hesitant. They would rather allow their child to repeat the class, then go to the university, study social sciences or environment or procurement, and then after 4 years, they do not have a job and they are on the street. And they are not ready to do any other job because they think they must continue looking. So it's a problem in our society. We need to deal with it. I know that the government is changing the curriculum, but it's not, it's still about us as a society to do something. Finally, on the property investment and internal tourism, of course, we are promoting a lot of domestic tourism these days because you realize that we cannot continue relying on the foreign market, especially when you wake up one day, you see like today there is a British advisory about Uganda. For us, we have no other country called home. So even as a sector, I know that there are seasons when it is low. We promote a lot of people to visit the country and know it and appreciate it. And even in cities like Mbarara now, there are people who have put their homes under Airbnb for people who come in, especially the diaspora during Christmas, and they are utilizing services. So, work in progress. This is what I can say for now.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kateshumbwa. We are actually on the dot, on top of an hour, but I have a few questions, and briefly, these questions go to you, Ms. Helen. Ninza kushabangu, these questions to Zirabe Mujuba. And someone says, how is housing finance helping to partner to build development in Ankole? What are the approved cities or towns where housing finance can help with projects in Ankole? Thank you so much. And also to remind you that we have lunch in Trillium A just after this forum. We are going to have our lunch, but after we are coming back for our next forum from 2:30. So please, we hope to have you back again here. Ntuzakuza omu Trillium A for our lunch, then tuaheza ntuzakutia mkaha to have our lunch. Thank you so much. And Ms. Helen, if you could briefly answer those few questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So as far as partnerships are concerned, we have opportunities for developers in the region of Ankole. If your dream is to build houses for resale, you can tap into that. We have financing for developers who build houses in bulk for sale. That will not only develop the real estate sector in Ankole, but it will also enable home ownership and also improve infrastructure in Ankole. And then we also have people that would maybe want to purchase property that is ready. We have partnerships with National Housing. There's an estate there in Ankole around Ruizi. I think many of you have seen it. So if you want to acquire some houses on that project, we can still be able to finance you. But also, you as an individual, in whichever journey that you have with regard to real estate, maybe you want to build rentals for cash flow, we can be able to support you. So that is how we are partnering to develop Ankole in the real estate sector. Also, we opened up a product that is called the SACCO. That product is to support groups, and we've been training the different SACCOs in Ankole and the Western region. For example, the Banyankore Kweterana SACCO and several other SACCOs, the Millennium SACCO. There are quite a number that we are training and skilling and digitizing, training in bookkeeping and all that to see that we still develop the area and support groups in the Ankole region. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. I'm wondering if Doctor has a question for you, but briefly, just to remind you that we are going to have our lunch just in the next room. So, twaheza fora meji, ninza kubashaba, we go have our lunch thereafter. We come back for our next session, which is also still going to be about investing in Ankole. People are going to be talking about education and career. They're going to be talking about taxation and finance. They are going to be talking more about insurance, financial literacy, but more so to do with insurance. Thank you so much. Doctor, you had a question for Ms. Helen.
Helen, thank you very much for the good news that you give out, support towards putting up property and others. My question is, for those who have land and maybe they don't have capital, do you guys take land as part of the capital to support them to start the project as it moves on, and you do co-ownership of the project until it's paid up?
Thank you very much, Doctor. Land is one of the requirements, but we also look at ability to pay because we are not in the business of taking over people's property. We do responsible business, and land is one of them, but we also look at cash flows and ability to pay. So we will have an end-to-end discussion on a case-by-case basis to see what circumstances the customer is in, and we see how to take their project further. But it's important to look for ability to pay and sources of income. Where we can support to build them, we can work with the customer. Where they are not there, you'll be doing irresponsible lending because you'll take over the customer's property. So that's not what we are into. I submit.
Thank you so much, Helen, for that information, and our viewers online, we thank you so much for tuning in, and Ntubasima Mnonga, thank you for keeping yourself live here on BKI, being our first annual convention. We are so excited for other programs, for other forums, and of course for our dinner gala tomorrow that you should not miss. Once again, I want to remind you that we have lunch just in the next room. So ninza kubashaba ntuza kugenda ntulia lunch thereafter. Ntuzagaruka, we have another forum moderated by our friends. We have a lot more today that you should not miss. Once again, I want to remind you that today is our final day for culture show that you shouldn't miss. Ntuza kureba emyenda, ntuza kureba ebitambi, emishana na byona. You shouldn't miss. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. God bless you. Ninye Chantal Mbabazi, your moderator for today, and I hope to see you in our next session. Thank you.
Kabantekereza omutima gwange tugwibwa okazarwa nkaha iwe okaruga nkaha ayakuzaira dora kakwaje matagonga. Recording stopped.
Aima, he's a financial professional, so put your hands together for Derek. This gentleman actually flew all the way from Boston to be with us. That is how Nomanyaturinka United Nations Suruburhamwe. So he's representing us there. And he did a very good job trying to mobilize Bostonians to bring them here. No, Sakuraba anywhere. Okay. The man is in shape. Then the one and only Sandra Najuna. We've been running this lady mad the last few days, but she's delivered. If anybody can do it, it is Sandra. And the next one, I have to be very careful how I introduce this gentleman. So I have to bring my notes. Omwamin David Kabkuru. I've known him for a very long time now. Akana Ankora taxes, so he still does. He's a businessman in LA for the last 20 years and some change, with a consultancy firm, hence he does my taxes, a community leader, a family man, and definitely our chairman, BKI, California. So let's put our hands together for Mr. David Kabkur. Mr. David, yes. All right, Nanye, let me join you. Are you guys ready? Sibaulida, I'm not, the excitement is a bit, we are going to talk about investments. I expect, a lot of excitement from you guys. All right, so Ntuzakutandika nanomwami David, he will give us a brief background about himself, introduce yourself and talk to us about what you do. And then once you're done, we shall move to Sandra and then the president. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, webale munonga. Amazina nkoko bagambire Derek Timer, kandi I came all the way from Boston. Iraka ninjira ndieryo. Numumpururaje? Yes. So nyowe echachira kundeta no kumanyana n'abanyankore bagenzi banje. Echo nchikuru munonga kubangambira about the convention nagira ntumweno hati ntule nizomu conventions nyingi konke y'abanyankore tinka dizamuga mbwene echo abo nchita kuba ninye na eshirayo, and the fact that nagita hono kugira ngo nija kureta kusharinga information nimwe nacho chanshimeza munonga. So ndiyaha as a financial professional ni nkora na company mwe bakweta WFG ninga shi World Financial Group kandi ekwatire n'ekitongole kindi kibakweta World System Builder omulimo gwitu n'okuyamba abantu abali mu ensi ya United States na Canada ninga shi North America okuombeka ekibakweta financial foundations, very strong financial foundations. So abamweno basako barebera fula yangu niyo insurance konka omulimo muhango kuchirari insurance njuya kuba ntureba okugura muhango. So webale munonga Mr. Moderator nindiraka introduction na konkaza kora.
Thank you very much, Mr. Timer. So let's go to Sandra.
Can you hear me? Oh, great. Hi. How is everyone doing in the room? I'm so happy to see all of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk. I know you've heard and seen enough of me, but here I am anyway. My name is Sandra Najuna. I am a public health professional. I have been in the public health field for about 12 to 13 years. I started out, most of you know, but I'll just remind you in case, some of you are meeting me for the first time. I started out as a statistician for my undergraduate. Then I eventually went into public health for my master's and currently pursuing a doctorate in public health at Johns Hopkins University. I also work as a senior project manager for an HIV/AIDS nonprofit called AIDS Healthcare Foundation. It's actually based here in Los Angeles, but we have about 80 locations around the United States and about 45 locations in other parts of the world. So today I'm not going to talk about my career, so you don't have to worry about that, but I'm going to talk about how we can use our jobs and our careers as an investment in general. And I look forward to sharing with you later and hearing what you have to say as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Mr. President.
Yeah, nyenda kutwara omugishogo kwebaza fellow panelists na moderator wetu mbatera omungaro okwefereza keiraka bakija kwegesa eva kuza kwegesa. Of course nkoko mwamahurire amazina ganje ninye David Kamuntu etamba kitobashega kabukuru. Koko ababagambire ntuyiro mu community obwire buringwa kandi tuyiro no muri America obwire buringwa. Na hisa kusemya aka 40 muri America ekyo mu kitero mu ngaro tindi kirare konka ruhanga hano ho yanteire ninkunda ensi yanje ya Uganda ninjikunda munonga kandi ninkunda abanyankore munonga. I love my country of Uganda and I love my tribe of Ankole, and I welcome all friends of Ankole that are here tonight with us. Thank you so much for coming. Tonight, I'll be talking about ingredients of investing in the United States. I'll be talking about the areas which I've been doing business in, which is taxation, and I also have invested in real estate. So everything I'm talking about is something that I do on a daily basis. I own several properties. I'm not at a high level, but the level I'm at, I have the experience to be able to talk about what I'm going to talk about. So I hope we can share, ask each other questions. I hoped that there were more younger people here because my message is mostly towards the youth, the younger people, as far as investing. But that's besides the point. If you are here as an adult, go talk to your son, daughter about the message I have for them tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. One of the reasons that I agreed to partake in this convention to begin with was I loved the theme about investing here, especially the youth. When I came, most of the advice I was getting is korana singi nango kore security konkana young. I ended up doing economics. So that is why I was really excited, because I feel like we should not limit the youth. We should allow them to figure out what it is they want and try to do whatever they have to do until they find what it is they need. And we can always support them at that. Everyone was doing security. I think we should call security. I get it. You start somewhere. When I saw this and saw the topic and the content, I was like, now this is what we've been missing in the last few years. So having said that, finance, Mr. Derek, I had some few questions that I would like you to answer for me. So you mentioned you're in a World Financial Group, correct? So what are some of the strategies put in place to bring about awareness for those opportunities Ugandans can utilize to help them invest in the US, to get to where, like Mr. President is, where they can own properties and that stuff?
Thank you very much for that question, and I'm glad to hear that Mr. President has already done all the investments and all the stuff. So you're serving as a very good example, sir. Thank you very much. So I wanted to quickly, I'm not a Bible person, but I know we have a few Christian people here. And if you have your phone, you can check Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. If you, Mr. Moderator, if you can search that and read it for me, it will be very leading for me to proceed with my conversation. But quickly, it's about how God tells us to be as wise when we're handling. Oh, you want to read for us? Go ahead, sir. Matthew 10:16. All right, thank you very much. So the meaning of that, and if there are any religious people here, you would want to correct me if I get it wrong. But I think the interpretation, in relation to what we're discussing tonight, is that we need to be as wise in whatever we do. We need to be very smart. We need to make decisions that are actually very, very smart in whatever we do in life. Otherwise, we might actually land in trouble. So, as World Financial Group, and as a member of the World Financial Group, my joining was more intentional to try and learn the basics of how people can build financial foundations. It's easy for you to walk on the streets and somebody tells you, oh, you know what, you can save your money. But they will not tell you the basics of doing that. So what are we lacking? We are lacking financial education. We are lacking financial literacy. And at World Financial Group, that's what we do. We go into the details of what you need to build a strong financial foundation, and we put it straight for you so that you know what you need to do from start to the end. If you miss out any point, trust me, you can build something, but you'll be like building a house without a foundation, and when the wind comes, it will blow it away. So if Mr. Moderator, you allow me to just talk about the basics of what a financial foundation would include. If I had more time, I would actually need 2 hours to be able to sweep your head over feet to make sure that you understand this. But I'm going to summarize it in quick steps. I don't know if you have a slide over there, Mr. Technician. But as he tries to put it up, I just wanted to start with so you want to go to slide number 1, which is go to the one that says you can build a proper financial foundation, if you can see that.
So Shana, as he looks for that one, let's move to Sandra, then we can always come back to that. So Sandra, in your introduction, I heard you done so many careers from statistician to I don't know where you're at now. How did you make that move to know that, okay, maybe statistics might not be it, or it is the one, but I need to do something else?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Allow me to stand because I feel like I'm in the middle. I will answer that question, then maybe talk a little bit about some of the points I intended to study. I've actually not been in 2 careers. It's one. Sometimes I get people thinking that because when you say you're a statistician, they imagine when you moved to public health, that was a different career. But statistics is mathematics, and mathematics can take you to any field. I could have been an accountant, I could have been a biostatistician, I could have been anything that requires math. So it so happens that my choice was health statistics, which led me to public health. So it really wasn't the tour, it was just finding a specialty. Thank you. But I had written down a few points I wanted to share about how we can use our jobs and our careers as an investment opportunity, especially here in the United States. I would like to start by humbling myself because I'm in no way the most qualified person in the room to talk about this at all. First of all, I have a couple of people here I've worked with. I see Jackie, who I've worked with at the University of Southern California, and I work with her husband at AIDS Healthcare Foundation, and they both have way more years of experience than me. I have my sister Pros in the room, who is a specialized human resource manager. So she should be up here talking about some of these, but the spirit stood on me to talk. So I'm just introducing, and hopefully maybe they can interject and correct. And I know a lot of you people that have had several jobs for way longer than me. So I start on a humble note. I'm just sharing what I know, but feel free to add on later. The first thing I want to talk about, because sometimes, maybe even in essence, it makes me kind of the wrong person, because when you say career job, it sounds like you should be downtown in a high-rise, somewhere driving a Jeep Cherokee on your way to work, but that's not really what we are trying to look at. Anyone here that wakes up and clocks in or turns in a timesheet, it's you who I'm talking to today. Any of us, all of us. That's who I would like to address in the next few minutes. Because, one of the main things that even in the morning was covered is that we have jobs, but that doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity for us to invest. So what I've been challenging myself with, which I haven't perfected, but I've been thinking about it, is how can I now make my job give me that extra income that will enable me to invest? Because we all know, and it's true, we are not going to become super rich from our jobs, right? We all agree. We are not going to become wealthy. The wealthiest people in the world we can talk about don't clock in, don't receive a paycheck. If they do, it's just one stream of income. So we know that. On the other hand, I don't have the full statistics, but I can even conservatively say 90% of us make and will make money from a job, right? So today what I was thinking about is how can we then transition from that and still make the best out of our lives here in the United States, though the advice also applies for Uganda. So I have about 3 or 4 pointers. The first one is make your human resource department your friend. I see this as the biggest mistake people make, especially in bigger organizations. They hire you, then once they move you in there, you get so embedded into the day-to-day. If for you yours is patient care, that's all you care about. The next time you go to HR is either when you have been fired or you're in trouble. And yet the HR department has all this wealth of resources that engaging with them puts you in a very good position to eventually negotiate and get better terms at work, which gives you better opportunities even to invest. Some of the terms I want to talk about is the first thing. All of us Ugandans, I don't know why we are so timid. We fear negotiating for a raise or even a salary at the beginning. I'm one of them. When you come in and they tell you 40 an hour, you're like, okay. And you work for 40 an hour for 5 years. You people, I work in AHF. There are people I started with and you see chick. Before you know it, the good thing they even tell us not to disclose our salaries, because if we knew, we would be very demotivated. So you see someone you think you work harder than, but they are sharper than you, earning like 40,000 more than you. And they're even probably in a lower position. But it's because Vajungu have mastered the art of negotiating terms. There's a time I was listening into one of my workmates. She said she used to live in Long Beach, and she justified to our organization, you don't have a name, so you can't say this is very secretive information. But I realized she had negotiated with AHF to pay her Uber every day to bring her from home to work. Every day. I was like, that's possible? But that's how people who have understood the system can negotiate terms we don't even know. But how will you know about them? If for you HR is for quarreling that the timesheet you sent in, but you don't see, without asking about what are the terms that are available for you. These days, working from home has become very popular. Have you tried to negotiate? Okay, I know it's not always the same in all contexts. Have you tried to negotiate to make sure you have more days to work from home? It's not, yes, we are less productive when we work from home. Everyone knows it. But it helps you relax your mind, and a relaxed mind is more productive. Have you understood the terms of your health insurance? Or when it's open, even open enrollment, they have to remind you, submit your documents without looking through. Now, let me go a little bit to my healthcare side as a healthcare professional. The biggest mistake we make in the United States is to make sure we don't have health insurance. It sounds like an expense until you need it. Last year, I needed a surgery. It was just one day, 50,000. Where was I supposed to get that money? What ends up happening? They tell you that, I don't think that's a good option for you. That's what your doctor will tell you. But it's because they see you don't have the insurance to afford it. And the reason why that is relevant to what we're talking about today, if you're not healthy, how are you going to make money? If you don't make money, how are you going to invest? So please invest. And most of the places where we work, and I know people here can say, hey, it's AHF. I also worked with Linda. You know Linda? Anyone in the room know Linda? I worked with Linda. Guess what Linda has an option of? Health insurance. How many of you utilize it? Thank you. It probably has something to do with me mentioning that she needs to utilize it. Some of the things we take for granted, the day you'll ever be sick, you will not be glad that you always wave about health insurance. Health insurance is a very important part of investment, because if you're not healthy, you can't work. I don't want to take up a lot of time, so I don't want to. The other things that I want to talk about that you need to understand, I know Derek is going to talk about life insurance, but our workplaces also offer a lot of forms of life insurance. I was reading through the terms this year because we just had our open enrollment. They cover, like in case you go to Uganda and you're sick, they cover like things that I'd never really known, and some of them are covered by our organizations. Do we ever take care to notice what is included in the package? No. And now that I'm even talking about that, whether you're choosing, if you're choosing between Linda and AAA, and look at these companies and the benefits they offer. Let it not just be about who gives what per hour, even for caregiving jobs. Look at these companies. Join a company that you know will take care of you. There are companies I know, Penny and I forget the gentleman that works with Linda. It's a caregiving job, but they can give you an annual leave. Have some of you care to negotiate that? They can give you an annual paid leave. You go to Uganda, you come back and find your job, you know? So no matter what level you're at, all these opportunities are there within a career, and they help you to make more money, and then you can invest. Quickly, the other 4 points I want to talk about, even with Linda, even as with a Fortune 500 company, there are always opportunities to develop your career, whether they are trainings. Sometimes Linda can say, we have a training in first aid or whatever, and then you go there very grumpy, but you don't know the importance of a lot of those trainings. You're in Housing Finance Bank, right? Those little trainings, they make you come in on Saturday and you're mad because you couldn't make it to a wedding. A lot of those things pile up and they eventually help you get better jobs, get better terms. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that you need to, this is a problem we have as Ugandans, and maybe Banyankore today we can talk about that. When you get into an organization, get into it, engage into its culture, because sometimes you go there, we do our job, we run away. But in those conversations that are side conversations, that's when you can find out how to get better at a workplace, how to get more money, how to get better opportunities. And in that, I'm going to go to maybe my second last point, which is 401k. And you may say, 401k, says Sandra, who works for HF. Guess who gives a 401k? Linda. Are you guys aware of that? I use Linda as a good example because she has been a huge staple in our community. Most of us have worked for her. But I'm using that as an example to also show you that there are so many opportunities we don't utilize. 401k or a lot of those long-term investments in a company. If you ever have to choose a job between one that gives you or matches your 401k, please go ahead and do it, because they put all this money away, and what you can do with it is so important, whether it comes to buying a house, which is an investment, buying a car without you paying any money into the market because you're using your own money. But how did I find out about these things? Engaging into the HF culture and listening into people that have utilized them. So it's very important for us to not just look at a job, but get there, see what is it that I can get here, so that extra money I make, I can take back home and invest. I can understand how to buy a house here. I can understand, because for us in Uganda, we didn't grow up with this whole idea of stocks, and I can understand how stocks work because I'm following my 401k and seeing the years I earn and the years I don't earn. But my last point about a career that is very important is, whenever it is you get a job, whenever it is you end up in an organization that's good, whenever it is you get information, please give back to your community and the people around you by sharing it. Pay it forward. Pay it forward. Like today is my opportunity to also pay Mike a little information forward that I got in the last 5 years. Pay it forward. Keep talking. Keep sharing. Because sharing is very funny. Sharing appears like you're giving, but you're getting a lot back. Because when people notice that your conversations are about that, they will constantly approach you with those kinds of conversation, and the more you talk about, that's the more you know. And the more you know, the more you learn about different opportunities. Like now, which company is hiring? Because also getting stuck in one company for a long time, they can only increase your salary by 5,000 in a given bump, even if you get promoted. Yet if you switch to a different company that your friend has told you that they pay better, you can get a pay rise of about 30,000. And that extra money you can use to invest. So I just wanted to share that, like, we should not just look at our jobs as jobs, and because sometimes I hear people say, I can't work, because we should all invest, and maybe in a perfect world we'd all be investors. But chances are you're probably going to end up at a job and just increase your stream of income by investing. So in order to do that, let's be more mindful of what we do with our jobs and what we do with the money there and how we can make more money, so that we make Ankole a better place. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And just to add what to your last point that you made of paying it forward and sharing information. When I was in the workforce, I remember the tip I used to use for my position in management was to look at how much my competitors were paying for my position. And you always have to interview every year to see where you're at. Not because you're going to take the job or whatever, to see how much more you can get from out there. And then you can now better come back and negotiate and be like, you know what? This is what is happening there. So I'm going to need A, B, C, D, E. So thank you so much. So Mr. President, how are you feeling so far?
Good, Desmond. Thank you.
All right. So you mentioned you're a real estate. Are you a developer or just a consultant?
Just a regular investor.
Regular investor. Okay. So what would you say are some of the ways that Ugandans who can't afford down payments on houses, how can they still earn some profit from real estate?
Okay. Thanks for the question. But before I answer that question, I also had some points listed down today.
Okay.
Regarding what I wanted to share with you. The topic is investing in America. This morning, we were privileged to hear a few speakers from Uganda that told us what to do. Honorable Kateshi talking about investing in Ankole, very powerful message. Gloria Katuku talked about ICT and opportunities there and the low-hanging fruit of things going on in Uganda. So investing realistically, and of course Helen from a finance bank, investing is a universal thing, okay? One can succeed in Uganda, one can succeed in investing in America. So, but the other thing we have to remember, there's a time function as far as investing is concerned. So I just wanted to give a background of that before I answer the question. Some of us come to America, when we leave that flight, we tell ourselves, ningarukayo myaka eshatu. Or I'm going back in 3 years. I'm just here, I'm going to make some money and go back in 3 years. Who has been in that situation? So, but before you know it, it's 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and so forth. So there is a time function when you are in this country that you have to be aware of, and hence the opportunity for you to utilize it to invest. Just as much as you would love to invest in Uganda or to do any investment, but you know that you are in number one, the leading economy in the world. So, iwe nkomunyankore, Uganda, what opportunities are you taking in this country? My privilege or what I thank God for is that I've been here for a long time. I've specialized in the most leading areas. If you want to succeed in America, you have to understand taxes. You absolutely must understand the taxation system, how it works here in America. There is a quote that says, 2 things are guaranteed, taxes and death. Sometimes people don't understand this. I've seen this all the time. People say, oh, I don't want to pay taxes. You know, back home we have an informal system of taxation. The taxation is not as deep. But here, if you walk on the street, you're paying what is called sales tax. If you own a property, you're paying property tax. If there's like so many taxes. There's city taxes, county taxes, there's taxes everywhere. So to succeed, anything that deals with money in America, if you don't understand or if you don't have a great consultant, tax consultant on your side, it's going to be difficult for you to succeed in investing in America. And I'll go back to the topic of what the moderator asked me, the topic of real estate. So the interplay between taxes and real estate creates a lot of success for people. Okay? Some of you might have heard on the news this infamous president of ours called Donald Trump. So one of the things they say about Donald Trump is that he paid $700 in taxes. But does anybody understand why that was so? This guy is a billionaire. He makes like $500 million a year, at least, or at that time. But his tax bill was $700. People that make $40,000 probably pay $10,000 in taxes. So how did Trump, the guy who's making $500 million, manage to pay $700? He was in real estate. Real estate is one of the most privileged income generator in this country. So, a person from Ankole, a Ugandan, most definitely must participate in real estate. Moderator, I'll answer your question. Your question was regarding down payment. So when you're buying a property, yeah, go ahead.
If you can't afford down payment, what are the other ways? Because with real estate, like you're saying, no shango in a closing costs, manyo in a down payment, manyo in a chi, and people end up losing out on some of these things.
So, to answer his question, let me first back up a little bit. To buy a property here in the United States, usually you don't buy it cash, just like we do back home in Uganda. You have to get financing from the bank. But even now in Uganda, we have housing finance banks, so they also finance properties. But about only maybe 30% partake in the market in Uganda to finance, or even maybe 20. But here in America, it's the other way around. It's 80%, only maybe 10% buy properties cash. So comes the question of down payment. So the government of America realized that they call it housing urban development HUD. They realized that people in America, for the economy to be stable, people have to own real estate. So they made all kinds of programs. Usually, if you did not have 20% to buy a house, let's say, for example, the median price of a house in America right now is about $300,000. But back then it was less. So with a median price of $300,000, you would need $60,000 US dollars to buy a house. So this was a hardship on so many people. That is 20%. So the government said, how can we encourage people to buy? So they made programs called FHA, Federal Housing Authority. These programs, you can go as low as 1% to buy a house. You can go as low as 3% to buy a house. So there's programs out there that if you comply, number one, remember what I told you, taxes, you are able and qualify to buy a house with only 1% or 3% down. So I hope that answers your question.
All right. And then you also mentioned, taxes as a key factor. I'll get to you, Mr. Derek. How then can we utilize those tax deductibles, like the so-called, I'll use your words, infamous president, in our personal finances and businesses? Because I know a lot of tax deductibles are out there, but people are not aware of them and how to utilize them.
Well, first and foremost, my encouragement to all Banyankore here, all well-wishers of Banyankore, all Ugandans, that the return on investment in real estate is great. Okay? So, and the government favors real estate because the government does not build houses. So they want people to buy homes. For a stable economy, the government wants people to buy homes. Why? Because if you have a house, you're paying property taxes. Every building you see on a block in America, there's nothing that doesn't pay property tax. What does the property tax do? The property tax helps with schools, with police, with everything. So that's how the government in America functions. The local government, all jurisdictions. Without houses, the government doesn't function. So first and foremost, the government has a vested interest for you to buy real estate. So that's why they give you tax breaks. That's why, for example, if you bought a house, this is something people don't even know. Most people don't know. And I'm just going to give you that loophole. If you bought a house here in America, you are exempted up to $250,000 as a single individual, tax-free. If you live in that house for 2 years and you sell that house, you are exempted from paying taxes on a gain of up to $250,000 US. That is incredible. Because let's say you bought your house for $200,000 and it appreciated, because houses do appreciate. As population grows, as people migrate, people love California. California is one of the highest appreciating states. People that bought houses here in, say, 2015, the prices have almost doubled. So there is a big capital gains. If you are a single individual, you bought a house in 2015, say for $700,000, that house now is 1.2, and you happen to be married, you can flip that house and the government will not touch $500,000 of your money. It's tax-free. Going beyond that, there is a lot of loopholes with investing. Say you have a rental property. There's depreciation. There's all kinds of loopholes with real estate where it can reduce your tax liabilities. So most people, when they make money, they invest in real estate as a way to create wealth, become well off, like Sandra was telling us. Like in a career, you have loopholes, like what she was talking about, getting an annual leave. But in real estate, you really have so many vehicles to reduce your tax liability. That's why President Trump, a guy that made so much money on his show called Apprentice, was able to pay $700. And people said, how is that possible? Because guess what? He depreciated all his property values, and he was even in negative income. And it was allowed by law. So he paid only $700. So some people that don't understand the concept say, this guy is a crook. But he's really not a crook. He's not the only one. He's just a minority of the rich people, of the wealthy people in this country that do that. So my message is really for us, Banyankore, for us, Ugandans. Let's take advantage, because you have to live somewhere when you come in this country. And remember the time factor that I talked about? You're going to be here for some time. Why not get a property in your name? Because even the primary residence, you have loopholes. An investment property, you have loopholes, where other people really are building wealth for you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just to remind audience, at the end of the panelists speaking, you're going to be able to ask questions. So if you have any questions that are going on, you're coming up with, just hold on to them. We shall get to you. So, Mr. Derek, recently I saw a quote by Elon Musk saying it's very easy to make $10,000 than it is to save $10,000. So what are some of the steps or methods you can share with us today that can help us, in terms of, save, number one, but also create cash flow without just depending on jobs or careers as the only source of income.
All right. Thank you very much, moderator, for this wonderful question. I think I was getting there. But before I get to that question, I just wanted to give you some figures. I'm a man of figures, so I want, if you have a pen or if you have a phone, type these numbers. 79, 62, no, separate them. 79, 62, and 37. Now, the 79 represents Americans who are feeling financial stress. 79% of Americans are feeling financial stress. 62% carry credit card debt. And 37 have already maxed out their credit cards. That means they don't have any savings. You get a credit card of $5,000 from Bank of America, you use it, you don't pay back until it is the $5,000 is maxed out. Now, what can we do to reverse that situation so that you can have savings? I go back to my slide. I don't know if I'm going to stand up if I'm able to get back. And I'm going to come back to your question because it's important that we take it step by step so we can make sure that everyone understands how we get to these figures. Are you able to do that? Okay, thank you. Oh, it's on the other side. So I think it's fragmented, but yes, exactly. So I'm missing two parts. If you can, it won't work. All right, I'm gonna put the pieces together. So we were talking about building a financial foundation, and we said that there's no way you're going to build savings. In this case, I'll call it emergency fund because savings is meant for something, that falls due, that is unexpected, right? So you have your savings account where you can go and get some money to do whatever. It's not an investment. It's savings. It's just there to take care of something that falls in place. But you cannot go to that step before you get, you see the box down there is called protection. And like Sandra was talking about, how much you needed to go through. And I'm sorry, I'm going to use it as an example because you voluntarily gave us that information. Yeah. Imagine Sandra didn't have insurance and she had to look for $50,000 to get that operation. What could have happened? Do we understand each other here? So, like building a house, you must build it from ground up. You think about your life because you wake up every day in the morning to go to work. But if you have life, if you don't have life, if you don't have health, are you going to be able to go to work? Certainly not. So like building a house, you must build it from ground up. So we must think about protection. And protection is about insurance. There's nothing else you're going to be talking about. When we talk about finances and we talk about protection, we're talking about insurance. It could be life insurance, could be car insurance, could be health insurance. It's very important because it forms the basis for us to be able to survive and go to work and make that money that we want to save or to invest. So the next thing that is missing out there is not emergency fund, debt management. Can you tell me one person who has put enough money in their savings without paying off their debt? If you have 50,000, Mr. Chairman, can this organization have savings if Hilton is demanding 100,000. So you understand the importance of debt management before you actually go ahead to, think about anything to save, right? And we say in financial literacy, there are steps that you have to take. So we teach you about debt roll-up. It's an easy concept that you can use to manage your debt without having to feel that stress, but give you simple steps which you can use to just, pay your debt eventually, but not feel that stress, but also get there. As long as you understand that it's something that you need to do before you start putting our money for your savings. And then there's that emergency fund. Now we are talking about the savings. So you've got your protection, first of all. You've got your driver's license before you get on the road. So that when police stops you, you're not banned from driving forever, right? The things that we actually take very unserious. If life insurance was enforced, all of us would have it now. How many of us have phone insurance? Phone insurance, yeah. Like on your iPhone. You say, I'm going to put protection for my iPhone. See? You have insurance on a gadget, but you may not have it on your life. Think about it. So once you have built your protection and then manage your debt, then you can go to building your savings. Am I getting to your question, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, you are.
So now you're ready to make some savings, or you're ready to put money aside for that eventuality. Because nothing else is going to take that money away from you. Now, once you put your savings in place, or your emergency fund, just make sure you prepare for anything that comes. You have breakdown, your car broke down, you have to go to work. You have a sick child that needs to be taken care of. You get an immediate operation that needs to be paid for. Emergency fund. Now, everything taken care of, you can think about your investment. You have the freedom now to invest in whatever venture you want. Do you want me to stop at that? Or you want me to?
I'll stop you there for a second.
Okay,
Because that marinates, for people in the audience. So, Madame Sandra, what advice would you give to somebody that just came to the United States and is trying to find their footing? Because you sound like you had some really great mentorship to get you to where you got. So how would you then advise somebody that came and is trying to figure out? Because there is a slight difference. I know you mentioned job, but there's a slight difference between job and career. How would you advise that kind of person to go forward?
Okay. We had shared these questions earlier, but now I realize when it's asked, I'm like, am I sure I have the right answer? Okay. So, but I will give it an attempt, I'm going to put this in twofold. I'm going to start with people that come when they still have a bit of energy. And I'm not going to put an age to this because it's not an age thing. One of the best things about living in America is that life expectancy, and don't quote me because I didn't check the actual numbers. The average time we're expected to live in Uganda is about 60 years. 68 maybe now, especially for females. Females live longer. Did you know that? Anyway. But in the United States, it shoots up to about 87, coming to 90. The pandemic made it a little shaky, but take 90. What does that mean? The way we used to perceive life in Uganda, where you're thinking like, my parents died, my mother died at 46, my father died at about maybe 60 something, but that was the norm. These days we live till a very long time. And the reason I start with that is it affects what it is we are going to do when we've come to the United States. The truth is, coming to the United States gives you a lot of privilege because we have access to things we never had. A lot of the access we have is like what Derek discussed, because yesterday during the sermon, the bishop shared that the thing about the United States is even the poorest person has a house, it has air, he has a car, so it's even hard to really identify a poor person. But that's one of the privileges we get. We come to the United States, we know that either way, the basics have to be there, you know? But, so we thank God for that. Not that Uganda doesn't have that, but you know the difference, right? So now to answer your question, if you've just arrived, what would I advise someone to do to get incorporated into the system? Now, if you come when you're younger, I am so sorry. The biggest advice I can give you is you have to go back to school. It sounds cliche because I sound like I'm always talking about people going to school, but you need to go back to school. And the reason I say that is it's not so much, I mean, there's the advantage of going to school because you can get a good paying job or whatever. But that's not even the biggest advantage. The biggest advantage, and maybe a misconception about education, we don't go to school to be taught what we need to know. We go to school to learn how to learn. That's what we go to school for. Whether it's high school, bachelor's, or even PhD, you're there to be taught how to learn. Now, if you're young, the best way to get an accelerated way of learning America is to go into any of their schools. One, you're going to meet a lot of people. Meeting a lot of people here, meeting someone that has lived in America is almost like 70% of their job, because you're going to sit and observe and see their lifestyles and quickly learn. The biggest problem with all of us here is we like to be Ugandans living in America. That's why, like in Boston, they say there is a Kampala Road, that place that looks like Kampala. Like, we like to stay in our Ugandanness. We want to, when we start a business, we want to operate it like Chikubo or Nasa Road. When we go to school, we want to see if there are loopholes. We like to operate as Ugandans in the United States. But when you're young, one of the fastest way to learn about the United States and how it operates is to join an educational institution. It comes with a lot of advantages. You may get the job that gives you the first footing to get a good salary, but understanding the United States, a lot of it requires education. Even if for you, you're like, I don't eventually want to be in a career, at least go to school, get whichever qualification, but by the time you finish it, you would have learned, then you can venture into investing, which gives me the next. I mean, the truth is, when we all get here, we have to get a job. But when we all get a job, okay, now you've come to the United States, I've addressed the younger people. Go in there, whether the journey leads you to getting a job, the journey leads you to going to the military, which has its advantages, but get into school, get into an educational institution. It's going to help you in a lot of ways. If you choose to make a career out of it, that's great, but at least get into an institution. And then for us that come here and maybe we feel like, we don't want to do that, definitely, get that first job. Hey, if you knew the first jobs I did, you can even run. Get into that first job, but get into it with a lot of majesm. When you get into it so that you understand the system. Don't get into it and get comfortable. Get into it and understand. If it's a healthcare, like most of the jobs we have here. I remember my first job, I think it was even paying private. But then I realized that therapeutic living centers of the blind had like a huge institution. I was like, I'm going to do direct care there. Because when I do there, I'll keep investigating and knowing what do these people do. Then before you know it, I will end up in an office. And that's what happened. So you can change the terms of your employment by going into institutions. Get attracted to institutions that to employ you, the ones that look like they're going to take you forward. And that's no matter what age you get here. And like I was saying earlier, share the information. The more you share information, the more you will find out even if it's healthcare, which places give better privileges. If you hear about places, I've worked for, what's that place called? Universal Cerebral Palsy. I think they changed names. And I would tell people, please don't go and work there because there's a lot of heavy lifting. Like, your back is going to hurt. You know, these are the kinds of information we need to find out. Like, there's a friend of mine that is seated in this direction that I won't call out. But I remember she once shared with me, she had a job and it was just like she was in so much pain, physical pain. then leave it, So like, let's just get into these institutions and get jobs and keep our eyes open. But by all means, whether you're young, whether you're starting later, invest. Like David said, we can all afford a piece of property. You start there. Even you get a piece of property and people rent off you. That's a form of investment. So let's get these jobs with the idea of getting richer, because we like being rich, by understanding how we can invest here, whether it's through stocks, whether it's through real estate. But to sum it up, if you're younger, compulsorily, go to school. Go to school. There is no excuse. Go to school, get a job, but go to school because it will help you understand America. If you come back a little older and maybe going to school is not your thing, start up somewhere, but join institutions that will get you to a better place. And by all means, whether young or old, we should all make sure we are investing. We are buying that connects real estate. We are understanding stocks. We are investing in Uganda where we safely can, so that we get into a better place. That's how I would advise someone that has just arrived.
Thank you very much, Sandra. When you were speaking about the Kalito town in Boston, you reminded me of, I think, at least me when I came to the US, our biggest problem. Tukatwe in a problem ya currency conversion. Kantuka tuli abana, 18, bakushashura dola mshanju. I think that was the minimum. Oshemerwa, abokuwa knows garom za Uganda, ishikuma isa Uganda bakando banyoba, until it came to time for paying bills and you're like, kwonka kanishashura sente nyinji. Abokuwa otiyono zirebe rom za Uganda. Dora nkarukumi for one bedroom, and million in kishat, So I think that was interesting that we need to spread outside of our own. And I think that if I'm trying to get to, let me say, real estate, to figure out how I can create a friendship and find a mentor in the environment I'm trying to get to, in a profession I'm trying to get to. And that's why I liked the main theme of skilling the youth. I wish they were in here to listen to these nuggets that you guys are sharing. Abokwa, I feel like the next generation needs, it's okay, okusigarombanya Uganda culturally and all these things, but at the end of the day, it's okay to open our minds to kind of, cause we are trying to raise them to compete globally. Not, Uganda, kuja competing anabanya Uganda. We are here to compete with Russians, Americans, Spanish, whoever. So we have to figure out how to continuously remind the youth and the next generation to, seek mentors in places they want to. And failure is okay. You have to fail, but you're failing better. Because the next time you try something, you're going to succeed. So, Mr. President, I had another question for you here. What would you say, and this is regarding real estate, what would you say are some of the red flags that we as Ugandans trying to buy homes here should be looking out for? There is so many, on TikTok, especially these days, with there's a lot of information overload on social media. Hatvatanchile Airbnb, put this here, do this. So how would you advise us on how to look out for red flags in your industry?
Yes, thanks for the question, Mr. Moderator. That question has a simple answer. But I was inspired by Sandra's talk and my friend Derek on the panel. So allow me just a second or two to go back at what they said. Then I'll answer your question. The premise of investing, which I really want or wish somebody had told me 30 years ago and so forth, is the mindset. You cannot invest if you don't have the money. So Derek talked about if this hotel is demanding $100,000 from us and we have $50,000, we have nothing left. So what does that mean? It means, and I'll read from the Bible, just like Derek said, one of the things that are very, very important, especially for us Ugandans and people that have just come to America. Allow me to read this from Proverbs. It says, Proverbs 22, verse 7, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave of the lender. So, in this country, you see me holding this thing right here, an iPhone. Outside, I'm driving a fancy car. Sometimes, for some women, they're wearing a very fancy dress or shoe. But guess what? Sometimes the money they used is borrowed. Am I saying something somebody knows about? So there is a lot of temptation in this land of opportunity to be in debt and stay in debt. But you heard it from the Bible. A borrower is slave to the lender. So that brings me to the point of mindset. We have to change our mindset. We have to change our mindset that sometimes we say things, oh, those Indians, they are doing so well. But do you know the Indians, abahindi, abakuruga abahindi, nibabasa kwijaha barara abantu mushanjo munju. Kungito munya Uganda, ko kumaraho mwaka gumwe nari myaka ebiri, nobanza norara n'abantu abandi mu maju. You can share. When you get here as a Ugandan, it's hard times, you can share. But after, not even a year, you're like, oh, no, I'm tired. Remember what the rent he was talking about? Of $1,000, which is a lot of money. But after 6 months, you have forgotten. Now you are saying, I want my independence. I want to live alone in a house that is costing you $1,500. When you look at the math, the money you're making, and what is, so your mindset is not there. And everything we're talking about tonight, if you don't have that mindset of discipline, of difficulty, of saving money, you're not going to get there. So my message today, which I got inspired from Derek's talk about, saving and so forth, is basically a very important idea for Ugandans, for Banyankore in particular. When we tend to forget quickly and get to the comforts, but we don't realize the expense of those comforts. Why can't we share a house? Like the Indians that we admire so much. Oh, how come Indians are doing this? We need to do that. We need to adapt things that will propel us, because we cannot invest when we don't have the savings, the discipline, the money to invest. Sorry for taking the time, but I thought I should say that. Also, one thing Sandra mentioned about the mindset. When you come from Uganda, you're like, oh, I can't go to school, I can't do this. I will employ another quote from Mandela. It says, it is impossible until it's done. Because when you come from Uganda, we have a lot of baggage. Family is calling you, oh, okazomri American to understand. There's a lot of things. People are telling you, oh, no, you can't do that. You have to do security, like the moderator was saying. So there's a lot of but you have to shift yourself and say, like Sandra said, go to these high institutions of higher learning, especially if you're young, because you can do it. You can do it. It is impossible until it's done. You have to get in and do it. This is a land of opportunity. You have to be inspired, and you have to have the right company. Company is also important. When you come to America, you're not going to ask America from your fellow Ugandan who just came with you. You're going to be friends with Linda and ask her about America, because she's an American, she's been here. So we need to branch out and go out of our comfort zone and say, now let's go talk to these Americans. How do they do it? Befriend them, get to know them, and that's how you grow. So to answer your question, I forgot your question now. What it was, go back to the question. I'm sorry.
But you answered.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, what are some of the red flags that we can look out for when trying to buy houses?
Yes. So the red flags are really a house. There's so many investments here. Derek has financial tools in insurance, stocks, mutual funds, and so forth. But what common thing do we know? Everywhere. If you're in Uganda, you live in a house. If you come to America, you live in a house. So this is the easiest thing to understand. Something that is tangible, something that you use every day. So it's a cliche to say common sense, but real estate is one of the easiest, most favored item because of the things I told you prior. So when you're listening to YouTube, TikTok, just be careful. Some of these people are just, they are selling basically views. That's how they make their money. But there's some that are real. I would recommend David Ramsey, if you have ever listened to David Ramsey. Very, very good. Although he's rich, but I think he's more realistic than most of them out there. So what do I mean? It's an easy question to answer because from back home, we live in houses. When you come here, it's no different. So basically, the red flags is don't get lured by gimmicks like Airbnb. Know that a house is simply a utility. And if you buy well, if you buy low, you sell high. And also, if you're going to get in the business of flipping houses, do your research. Try to understand. How does it work? Get mentorship. Don't just jump into it. So the red flags is on the internet especially. There's a lot of them. But they are not really selling that knowledge. They're just making themselves richer. So avoid that. Come to your neighbor who has succeeded. Come to Miss Penny who owns a house. Come to somebody like me who owns a property. We talk the same language. I can advise you. So that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, and a follow-up question real quick is, do FHA, can somebody use, or should I say, are FHA loans applicable to all houses? Because that's a question that came up.
Okay. Yes, if somebody takes that is right. Not all houses are applicable to FHA. So when the government was developing this program, it wanted people to get in real estate. But if you're buying a house for $1.5 million, the government is not going to allow you to be in that program. So there's a cap. There's a cap of money. I don't know the exact numbers. It goes by county in the United States. If the county has a high property values, I think in Los Angeles right now it's up to maybe $900,000. You can still qualify FHA loan. But if you are in Indiana, where the median price is like $100,000, or in Ohio, it's different. The cap is different. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And then, Mr. Derek, I'm going to get to you as we wind up. I have two questions for you. The first one is, I know you did mention World Financial Group deals with life insurance, correct? And then I also understand that Sandra earlier brought up her situation. Sorry, we're going to use you again. Your surgery where you had to get $50,000, but thanks to you, you had protection. So, but I also understand that there is some life insurances that in case you're in dire need, you can borrow from. Do you mind elaborating on that? And then the second question would be, what portfolios can we now, what portfolios would you advise us to invest in for those that I'm sure are looking to go that direction?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm going to ask the technician if he's ready to give me slide number 3. Number 3. Okay, for some reason the words don't come up, but I wanted to give you another statistic before I answer the question. And this is an interesting one. So one in every 2 men in the United States is more likely to get cancer. They are at a risk of developing cancer. 1 in every 2 men in this country. 1 in every 3 women in this country is at a risk of developing cancer. Then 1 in every 4 women is at a risk of dying from a cancer. And 1 in every 5 women is at a risk of dying from cancer. Does that scare you? I'm not in the business of scaring people. I'm in the business of reality. And we already know this. So, before you talk about what products you can invest in life insurance, that of course, when you talk about investment, you're talking about building assets. But what are you building assets for at the end of the day? So it's important for us to understand. So DIME is a method that we use to determine how much of life insurance somebody should need. And therefore, that should also help you in determining how much investment you want to use through that investment, that life insurance product that you want to invest in. So I'm literally talking about investing through life insurance. So DIME stands for debt, income, the mortgage that Mr. Kabukuru is talking about, and education, because these are very important things in our lives. So we talk about our own education, but we also talk about education for our children. If we don't plan for it, anything happens to you, your kids may not go to college because you won't be there to see that. If you don't cover your mortgage, I know there's mortgage insurance, but some people may actually opt out. Is it mandatory? In some states, it's not. So if you want to be sure that you have that asset, and you want... Okay, so if you're a little bit richer, then you may not need mortgage insurance, so it doesn't become mandatory, and therefore you can go without it. But then, does it stop you from actually something happening to you and you're at risk of losing that property? That should be the question. Then, how about like during COVID, where people spent like a full year without going to work? What happened to their income? Were they earning, or they were just suffering, paying their bills, or asking somebody to pay for their bills, or running down their credit cards, or even being kicked out of their houses because you're not working? And how about debt? We already talked about debt management. So DIME is how we determine how much of an insurable need you have. So in this particular example, somebody had a debt of 50K, his income was around maybe 36,000 a month, and he needed like 10 years. 36K a year, and he need like to have, something to go. No, 36,000. So you multiply that for like 10 months to get something that at least covers you for takes you to go for like 10 months to be able to sustain yourself in case anything happened to you, and then your mortgage should be covered. Now, once you know this, then you have determined that the most important things that you have in your life are covered. Then you can talk about insurance. But can you give me slide number 4, please? And that will be the final one. Number 4? Thank you. So, before you start thinking of any investment in this particular area of mine, of life insurance, you need to look at that box. And I remember we started talking about tax advantages. This whole evening we talked about knowing how to take advantage of taxes. What is it that you're trying to take advantage of taxes for? Because taxes can impact your bottom line. We're not saying that you don't become a responsible citizen and not pay your taxes, but we are saying that if you find a legal investment that helps you, or that gives you, we like to be polite, that gives you a tax advantage, would you take it or not? Sandra was talking about stocks. We're not going against stocks. But I want to ask a question real quick. If somebody gave you, omuntu yakuhereza a chance kimwe yakugira ngo eki kijwire byombi birumu amate byijwire konka yakugira ngo tware eki okisiye hariya konka otakagira owahaho amuhanda kuri akisiyeyo aho kukitwara nibija kuhereza sente zite deno ndijo yakugira ngo koragabireho umuntu amuhanda noija kugira eki waganyirwamo. Which one would you rather take? I don't know if that example made sense. I think I should better use a better one. Sorry. So what I'm trying to say is that you make an investment, you make an earning out of that investment. Let's say 10%. You invest 10,000 and you earn $1,000 out of it at the end of the year, at the end of the investment period, or whether it's 1 year or 6 months or whatever it is. Another one makes an investment, same rate, and you all come back with the same amount. Sandra and David, they both invest in different portfolios at the same rate of return, 10%. Sandra makes $1,000, David makes $1,000. David pays taxes of maybe 30% on his gain, right? That means that out of the $1,000, he has lost $300. Sandra had invested in a tax-advantaged portfolio. He makes $1,000 and gets to keep $1,000. Who is better of the two? Obviously Sandra, right? That's what we mean by tax advantage. So you want to try and pick out a portfolio that gives you the 4 boxes. And the first one is protection, which is the life insurance. So we're talking about the life insurance product. So it should give you automatically protection. But does that product give you safety so that after you've earned your 10%, it stays 10%? Because you can make money, you can accumulate money. You can make money, you can save money, you can accumulate money. But if you don't protect your money, you go back to making money. So you want to make sure that you're making money and going at the top of it and protecting that money that you made and accumulated. Because if you don't do that, you're going to go back to square one. It's like running a treadmill. You're running one place, but you're still in the same position. You think you're busy sweating, but you haven't run from one place to another. You're still on the same treadmill. So you want to make sure that the portfolio that you invest in is giving you the protection and it's giving you that safety, meaning that if I earn my 10%, then I shouldn't hear, oh, the market has gone down now, it's negative 30, so I've lost 30% of the 10 I gained. Now, you're off the treadmill, you're on the floor. You're not even running in the same place, but you're off the treadmill now. You're back to negatives. Are you making progress in your investment? I'm trying to be very smart here, not to talk about different products. But if you meet me one-on-one, I'm going to show you these products that can actually set you back, but I also can give you products that can give you the growth that you want. So we go to growth. If you add tax advantage, you already have the protection and the safety. That means that you won't have any chance of losing that money that you gain. It's called growth, right? So you want a portfolio that gives you tax advantage, that gives you protection, safety, and growth. That is when you realize that the money you're making is making significant progress. It's protected. It is making gains. So one of the products that are very popular on the market, of course we talked about 401ks. Everyone knows about 401ks. 401ks are not, they can give you growth if the market performs very well. The good thing about 401ks is that you can get it from your employer, your employee's contribution. So I encourage everyone to take advantage of that. If you have an employer that gives you a 401k, go and double it and double your contribution. Because you're getting free money at the end of the day. Even if the tax hits, even if at the end of the day the market is not performing well, your employer's contribution can offset that. You're not losing money. You're getting free money from the employer, right? So why not take it? But that's a discussion for another day. The product that I actually we majorly use or to help people to understand is one called Universal Index Life. Universal Index Life Insurance is a strategy where your money is invested, not directly into the stock market. It's not directly invested into the stock market. It's mirrored. We look at the insurance companies. I'm not an insurance company, so I'm sorry, I'm going to take myself off. I connect you to an insurance company that can help you with that. But I also educate you as a financial educator. I educate you about that product. So when I take you to an insurance company, they will get your money, the money that you invested, besides what you're paying for your life insurance. You choose what you can afford. And we want to talk about affordability because people want to say, oh, you know what, they fleece you. No, we don't fleece people. We actually ask them if they can afford something. And they make a commitment. If they are disciplined enough, discipline. I'm talking about this because we don't have much of it. Now, we go into things thinking that we're going to gain from them, and then we become indisciplined, and then we go back to square one. Because if you're not disciplined, you can't invest. Do we agree? There's no investor who has ever invested and they are not disciplined. They will definitely lose that investment. And there's always going to be one person to blame. The one who advised you to invest, right? So, let's not go there. But at the end of the day, when this insurance company gets the money that you're actually looking to invest, they will look at the performance of the stock market or the performance of the SP 500s, the indexes, the SP 500s, the global index, and they see how it's performing. If it's performing at 10%, they will give you that 10% gain in your money. You're not participating in the stock market, in the performance of the index.
Mr. Derek,
Yes.
real quick. I'm going to give you time to go in depth after, but for now, due to time constraints, let's give the audience a chance to ask a few questions, then we round this up, and then if somebody has questions to go into the nitty and gritty, they can come.
Yes.
Because this is sounding very interesting, but it looks like it was a Kurabio Mshaha and then with
Yes, I understand.
So just
kutandika kugamba nanye So that's the problem. But
Thank you so much, though. All right. Do we have any questions from the audience members? Okay. I'll come to you guys and I'll walk around with the microphone. Kuonkashi. Ninjako, so I'll leave this one up here. Then I'll use mine.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, the speakers. It's quite a very interesting discussion that you've brought to us. It's my first time to attend forums in the United States. And the reason why I've attended is because I felt I should be part of this forum. So my question goes to the President after giving these compliments. The gathering that you are making is going to bring change for those who feel to be interested to be part of the journey. My aim or my purpose of being here is to see that there's connectivity, know each other, and work like Indians, the way you mentioned, not to store and cupboard the Indian story. What is the outcome of this meeting? Are we going to be investors of ourselves? Some of us or some of you are better off than others. Can we create a scheme and a pool whereby the scheme can be part of the basis for generation of investment for us and for the children to come tomorrow? Because if we work for the children, we work for ourselves. How can we make sure that we can invest back home as a solid Banyankore Kweterana International? I'm talking about this. I rent 4 properties from one pension scheme. It's a pension scheme because maybe the people saved for that pension. What if we have our own scheme here out of your discussion? We pull the resources and we put them together and we do a better investment. Those who don't have enough, you guys who know finance, maybe you could equate it. You give 100, that's equivalent to your share as it goes. That is one of the points I wanted to mention. The second point about, is it Gloria? I like the way you say people come here in the United States. None of them come here. Is it Sandra? Sandra. None of them come here with papers. You see Mexican clothes across the borders. Some of them don't even have a chance. Of late, our members are also coming through the same borders. They trek through all that heat and they're here. Let's not talk about those ones. Even those who come with visas, they cannot work immediately. The best job they can get under the table. You have to wait or declare yourself maybe 180 days to get a social to make sure you start working, which is a basis indication for your taxes and how you can get better. How do you help such people? Because you can't underrate them. The biggest employees in the United States are self-employed and have never been to school. And the majority, they're whites. They own restaurants. They own plumbing companies because they learn by experience. So I believe education may not be the only route for somebody to be successful. It should be something else that we can look in as Banyankore Kweterana. People have come in and cannot be able to access school. Maybe they tap into skills that can make them learn job quickly and they earn a living. I thought maybe that could be a point of discussion. Then the last one is, which is my motto, which I normally say, when people gather, ideas come out of it. And I use it every day. The people you know matter a lot to your life. So literally your network becomes your net worth. You may not have any money at all, but because you know the people who are mattering to your life, they can make your life better to start on. Now, if we know each other, we come from the same tribe, from the same region, hey, let's help each other. Let's become the better people for tomorrow, and then tomorrow they will say, oh, those guys are better organized than others. The other guys are sleeping, these ones are active. And I would give it out of my example. I've never been employed by anybody. Since I went through my medical school, I've decided to say no. And I learned it from United States in 1999 when I came for a gathering like this. And I made people say the best employer in yourself is yourself. The best boss is yourself. Let's encourage people to be self-employed. And thank you very much for your property business, the president. That's a route everybody can go. If you can take us inside, we are there. So the question is, what are the barriers of investment here in the United States for the people who have come in? How can we help them to make sure to overcome those barriers? And how can we create a scheme that can be historically known that it will be there forever, even generation that the children can follow on? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. President.
First of all, the gentleman that just spoke, can I know your name? Dr. who?
Davis Cash.
James Cash?
Dr. Davis Cash.
Okay, Dr. Davis Cash.
Yeah.
Cash.
Cash and Kesente. Cash.
All right. I like that. So, Doctor, first of all, I like your quote. Your network is your net worth. So, allow me to say that I'm the president of BKI, and I would like to appoint you as our ambassador, wherever you are. So you can be in our network, so our net worth can change. Thank you so much for those points. I think Sandra is going to also help me, maybe Derek, to answer those questions. First and foremost, your question was touching about what collaboration or what scheme can we do as Banyankore. Niki kitukubasa kukora nk'Abanyankore abizira mu kintu ekiturumu ekya BKI kureba ngu twatunguuka. Of course, tinkwenda kugara mu history yarezire ekibiina eki, but I, as one of the founders, vision yetu akaba ari ngu, besides keeping a culture yetu nk'Abanyankore n'okujegyesa abaana beitu abari aha omuri America ninga hona hituri omu nsi ezindi, mission yetu akeri okutunguuka nk'Abanyankore omu bintu by'enfuna. Nahurira ngu ine Uganda hariyo circles nyingi, hariyo ejo scheme y'orumu. Itwe nk'aba BKI, nambwenu vice president tari aha Mr. Omwambagoro, twine initiative eyi tukuteekateekaho omu biro by'omu maisho nk'ekibiina eki kukora something similar whereby abantu nk'eitu abari omu diaspora ntukwata sente ninga ntukora sacco or a bank for development for Ugandans in our particular region of Ankole, first and foremost, but also encouraging wealth creation for the young. Uganda is now comprised of, they say 80% people are under 30 years of age. So this is our target audience, the people that we can use this capital for to develop our region of Ankole and the nation at large. I don't want to preempt her question of barriers to entry, but I understand what your question was. Papra, immigration. Most people come in this country to be in papra, to be in immigration paperwork. So nevumwe esandre byana agamba ebyokushoma nibasa kuguma because okushoma nokubasa kuguma. But again, it goes back to kile kintu kina agambe kya mindset yawe niki ekiriho. Of course, ntumanya ngu nk'abantu b'Abahindi kwa kwija hati bakwija kushoma primarily actually abana babo nubo bakushoma but bo bazo mu business zabo bazikora. Similarly, there is things here that yield a lot of return as opposed to say omuntu wazo mu university akamaramu emyaka ena. That is not to discourage ngomuntu atazo mu university, but there is a lot of skills. I'll give an example in real estate. Just becoming a real estate agent. Do you know how much you can pay to become a real estate agent? Does anybody know? Does anybody have an idea? To become a certified real estate agent, how much? $500. To become a real estate appraiser is probably about the same. These are skills that not necessarily you have to have a degree from a high learning institution that yet can make you a lot of money. Similarly, for women that have been here, they become CNAs. They have that certification in healthcare. It propels them. This is not, again, 4 years. So, again, that addresses the barrier to entry. Lastly, there is a lot of fear. A lot of fear. When people come from Uganda, it's just also still a mindset of getting into business. What do I mean by that? A person can do janitorial business. Okozi horonyo, okozi ebizimbe. Omuntu ogwo akore sente okukira omuntu in a degree. So it's taking a discipline, it's taking a getting together n'abantu abo. In fact, hariho omuntu omwe akija mu office yanje akana aza kukora ebipapura bya immigration. Konka kaine kibakweta IT number nogitunga otakatungire ebipapura. Yanyoreko omushoro guriho $500,000. Aja tshiwe omuntu otaine ebipapura eze sente nozikora ota. Konka kuyanshoborere nareba ngo ari mu business but it was not a barrier to entry for them. But Abanyankore, Ugandans, twine obwoba okuza mu businesses. Kandi obwo okutwarijira omuka tukantukora business. Onga kutwahikira aha twatiina. So ekintu eky'Abanyankore twine okwega n'amateeka ga America. Mwine okumanya nk'omwami Kigoye nakora emishoro mumubuuzi nibigenda bita. Mwine okumanya amateeka g'ensi egi. Nibagira ngu koza oburi enshoro koraki. Ori enshohera. So that is my message to you. Abanyankore abari aha mureke kutiina mwebuuzeho aha bantu abakigiremu abakirimu nikiza kubayamba. So Dr. webere munonga abwebuuze ebyo kangarura kazindaro mugenzi wange.
Ego, Doctor, I continue to thank you so much for your wonderful questions. First of all, thank you for making this your first home for one of these numerous gatherings, because you had many options, but you chose us, so we are very privileged. When to answer your question, let me even start by giving you a slight detail. I'm part of the committee that planned this, right? If it was up to me, without the constraint of time, this panel would be up to there. Even the number of phone calls I made. But after some time, realistically, it's 2 hours. So let's shrink it. I am in no way a believer that education is the only way out. So that one, I even started with that. I even said in my presentation that we are not going to get wealthy by being employed. That's the truth. And some of the things I was talking about is how we can utilize the jobs we have to try and get onto the investment side. That said, I was looking for statistics, and you did hear I'm a statistician. Here in the United States, according to the site I'm on right now that I can't quote, but about only 16% of people here are entrepreneurs. And that means that at least above 80% are employed. realistically. I even mentioned that the truth is we all want to be entrepreneurs. Right now, you told me I'm going to own a private island and sit there. I would also be in that, I would have so much luxury. I would be on that submarine going down to the Titanic. That's how little problems I want in my life. But unfortunately, based on statistics, majority of us are going to have to be in a workplace. So what I was presenting today is, if that becomes our fate, what can we do to make the best of it? Because, and then I brought in our dear other experts, and I would have had 6 more here to tell us about the entrepreneurship opportunities. One of the best things to come out of this last year that I thought about us as Ugandans is the move to Arizona. And it could have been, it has a lot of debate can be said about it, but I felt like it invigorated an entrepreneurial spirit that we had never seen, at least in the California community, or the diaspora in the US at large. Because when you go there, then now the lessons people have learned in the last 10 months, for me, I feel like a better investment than what I'm learning at Johns Hopkins. Because learning how this system works, I had people, I'm in healthcare, I had people quote Medicaid quotes that even me, I'm like, I remember that from school, It was, so the best way would be an entrepreneur. But the reason why I'm on this panel is because a good number of us are going to be clocking in. So I'm just here to discuss, if we are clocking in, then what can we do? What's the best we can do from it? And then I'm going to add to something that David already preempted. Yes, there are barriers to coming to the United States. I don't have a percentage because we've never counted it, but I would even say, I think only 10% of Ugandans come here fully documented. The rest of us have to figure it out, and I'm one of them. Father Abraham, you know that song? I'm really one of them that had to figure it out. What I can legally say on a televised platform is definitely when we come together like this, we learn ways to get out of that I probably publicly cannot discuss. But that's one of the important things about communities and engagements like this, is that if you show up here and you have that problem, at least you get an opportunity to share it and find solutions to it. Because the solutions lie within our people. Because that's one of the ones we can't really contact Americans on. It's the people who have been around. How did you get to the other side? How did you get documented? That said, whatever stage you're at here in documentation, the barrier, or looking at that stage as a barrier, is truly in your head. I always say this when I talk about my career. I remember that day I got my green card. I'd finished my master's. At a university, you're seated next to a lady that works there. If she tells you the tuition rates, you can even run out of this room. But because I came here with that determined mindset to figure out my way into my career, sometimes I look back and I laugh. I have a sister here. If she tells you, there's a time she phoned me and she was like, Sandra, you're so skinny. She paid for me, buy me the rest of the tuition that semester because I looked so unhealthy. But I was determined to get that out of the way and see where that takes me. So honestly, and there are so many opportunities in our community colleges here that will not even ask you about documentation. So, and that's not just in education, also in entrepreneurship, like our president discussed. People are not documented and are making money. If you go to look at most of the Ugandan entrepreneurs, I feel like sometimes even being undocumented makes you want to even make more money because you don't know what time this is going to end. You know what I mean? I feel like I was even more serious before I was documented. After that, I was like, I am an American now. I'm their problem. But I think for us to look at documentation as a barrier is a mindset. Because otherwise, when you choose to say, I'm going to invest at home anyway, I'm going to invest here, or I'm going to invest in my education, once you're determined, there are so many loopholes out there. And even that determination alone gets you out of that undocumentationness to eventually make your way to being documented, albeit all the challenges we know are in there, like the system and the backlog and the lawyers. And so it's true, we have to recognize it. We try to solve it, but it's truly not a barrier to the point where you can't get this done. Also, by the time I became a citizen, I have about a year and a half left of my PhD. So I could have said I waited to become a citizen and become a PhD holder, but I became a citizen when I had already enrolled. And so, I think a lot of these things, we put them in our heads, but if we are very determined, we can make it within our circumstances. I did not answer all your questions because these panels can never really answer, but I hope it opens up discussion so that in the 2 hours we have between now and 7 o'clock, we can explore some of these topics while we engage. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one more question.
Thank you, moderator. Amazina and Assumpta Triasimwa. Sometimes no wasakonjera uri ya doctor, nariyo ni achira. Konkowe bitabo tindo wabasha womsha. Nindugabshenyi, and I've been here for maybe 10 years now. Echindu kwenda gamba is, first of all, my father told me one thing when I was growing up, and every time he would hand me school fees, akagamba ngu Assumpta ekaramu tekujunda. So having said that, ekaramu, wherever it is, you can read your books and put them somewhere and get into something that will give you whatever skill. At one point in time, you have a fallback position when things don't go right in any way. Ekaramu yote kujunda. Konkahati in this, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be one of the organizers. So having said that, we can see there is investment. We are talking about investment. We are talking about insurance. We are talking about so many things. For me, what I'm actually interested in is every investment needs money. You need that small thing to start with. So how can we help each other to access the bank? Because if you're going to invest, you will need to borrow money either, or you have maybe your sister to help you, or you have somewhere where you're going to get that money from. So what is the approach that we can have as a group to access the banks and get that money so that we can start that investment? Thank you.
Okay. Tindukumanya echibuze cha Mr. President ninge chanje, but I will try to tackle it from my own knowledge. So nka, BKI as a group oku kweterana tukakora ekibina ekikubasa kutuhereza capacity yoku borrowinga, because first of all it's building capacity first, right? If we haven't created, of course, nkakora home bank for around 12 years. Kandowa housing bank wanagamu mkasheshaka yagira ngu, we don't lend to security, we lend to ability to pay. One lending to ability to pay in a track record. So how do we build a track record so that whoever is going to lend us money has seen that track record and trusted that they can give us money before we start with that? So, nyona ninjirango, if the organization, ngukuna ninjisa, organization yetakarire mabanja, which will stop us from putting up savings or putting up money, putting together money in the account, whether it's through membership or mandated dues or fees that everyone can contribute per month, so that we can build that credibility, because But before we even get there, we have to identify what our goal is, because if we don't have a goal, we can't do anything. So we have to set a goal first. What are we borrowing for? In the future, if we are trying to borrow, what will we be borrowing for? And can we say, maybe ntuenda kugura ekizimbe tukyete Banyankore Kweterana International, nito tukipangise tukihemu income eyokubasa kutuyamba. How do we get to that point? Because that's a goal. Now you set a goal, ine ekyo rukwenda kukora. Now you start planning. How do we get to that goal? Buri muntu yareeta orw'ataano, buri munyankore weena ari omu US yareeta orw'ataano buri kwezi. How long will it take us to get to this kizimbe ekya $1 million? Now, once we get somewhere, and maybe tukagira ngu hati, we need to realize this goal in 5 years, because if anyone knows about SMART goals, you specify what you need to do. You make it measurable. It should be achievable. It should be realistic. It should be time bound. You must set a time frame for which you want to achieve that goal. So twaiza kumanya ngu ntwenda kuchiachivinga omu myaka 5 oba, then omu myaka 3 tukashanga twineho even 3/4, not even 3/4, half of the money that we want to get to that goal. Then aho niho turabasize kuza omu bank tukagira ngu hati nitwine omurimo ogutwekoziremu nk'abantu. Omurimo ogutwekoziremu ntwenda obuyambi, mutuyambe mutwongeremu omu misho. But we have shown that we have the capacity that if we borrow money from you, we will be able to pay it back. That's how we will attain our goal. Think kumanya kwere ekyo answering our question yawe kurungi, but I think that would be the best way to look at it.
Thank you very much, Derek. Sandra, you had mentioned earlier we had a question online. Is that still available, or as we wrap up? No? Okay, then lastly, Twino Mjenyi, all the way from Uganda, is the Director of Economic Monitoring, Office of the President. Yanaenda kukutora mtiaho, akatha some few words.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Nanye ndi Munyankore, owo Munyaruguru nindiga Munyaruguru witu. Na n'omukyala wanje n'omutoro Rosebel Kwesiga. Nakora actually nka principal wa Bugonji, a school of dancing and midwifery. Nyoni nkora nka director wa economic monitoring mu office ya president. Kandi twiziraha turi mu holiday yitu chonka we happened to know about this gathering. I have a sister who lives here called Emma. Emily, I think you call her Emily. She's not here, she has gone somewhere. And Mabel. I also happen to know Reverend, because last time I was here, I attended a service at his church. So I am really very happy to find this kind of gathering and people from the same region discussing issues of common interest. Kana ngwachansemeza kureba ngu numwereza confidence na naba bakwiza batasomere kugira ngo they can actually start off and be on their own. Then nabasomere kugira ngo numbasa ku encouraging abandi kugira ngo babe self entrepreneurs. I know that those of us who live in Uganda, we have, of course I will talk on behalf of us who are there, we have not been fair to you people in the diaspora, where you make your money and send it to us, and then we end up also diverting it into other things, and then maybe you get frustrated and you forget to invest in your country. But as a government official, I would really like to encourage you that there is a lot you can do, even with government. when you are combined, and I really, President, I extend my appreciation for bringing people together and for forming this organization. I'm also aware that Honorable Kato Sumbwa has addressed you in the morning online, and hopefully if it was not because of the restrictions of the visas, possibly you would have had so many other people to join you. I know Honorable Tayewa likes this kind of gatherings, and I think these are the people you really need to petition and put some very practical agenda to see how best you can work with government to promote some things at home. So, Nyoichi Ndesiraha, of course, there is my sister whom I had spent over 7 years without seeing. You know, people when they come to America, they disappear. I'm also going through Boston because I have a son there. I think he knows him. Whom I have also spent other several years without seeing. You hear, we are okay, we are doing very well, but you never say person doesn't come back home. But at least when I reached here, I found my sister is associating. She would be here, but again, I think she had a business engagement. She had to go away. I really feel at home because where we are not, at least you people are there. And I would like very much to appreciate the doctor's contribution when he said there are people who come in, and when they come in, they struggle to fit in. So maybe through this kind of an association, if you can have an arm for at a fee, because these people, when they come, they can also pay. They can pay, but at least instead of having to struggle, they lose their money, they do what? This is what I've seen the Indians doing in Uganda. They open up shops in Dubai, then they open up shops in Uganda, they go and bring their brothers from India. They start even taking them as far as Mbarara, Ishaka, even Nabunyaruguru. They start selling phones when actually they send them. I think when they pay them, then they pay back the credit, and somehow they build them. By the time you know, an Indian is owning a shop who came as a shop attendant. So hopefully, if you can also, these children, of course we're having a problem in Uganda. The economy is growing, as you may have seen, but it is not growing at a rate that would do, it cannot attract the kind of employment that we would need for our youth. And our youth, as somebody has noted, there are so many, they are educated, and they can't find jobs. They can't find jobs not because the government is not willing to create for them jobs, but they are growing at a rate at which the government cannot create jobs for the youth. And I am also happy to hear what I've heard here, that actually self-employment is the answer. And this is something that we face at home. Because I think the kind of education we attain is that one to go and look for white-collar jobs. So it is very difficult for our children to actually get employed. Even when you tell them to get employed, like I want to see how, I don't want to, but I want to go and see how my son is living there, because I have a farm. I'd never seen him in the farm. Even washing a car was a problem. I don't know how he washes his, but I hear he's driving. So we'll have that mindset change in Uganda. People, I hope the girls here, you allow them to go to the kitchen and they cook. Yeah, at our place, the girls, they don't even want to cook. For them, they think that cooking is for the housemaids. So, and when they come here, they even find life very difficult. I think that's why we are having problems in the Middle East, where our children have gone and they have failed to cope up. So, but through this kind of gathering, maybe you can reinvent some kind of the Sarakate kind of thing, but in our Ankole cultural thing. But another thing I also wanted to encourage you is that there are so many things really. Just as I got out, somebody called Khalid, is an Indian, He's right now in Chicago, but he has sent somebody to come and meet him at my hotel, and he wants to get coffee from Uganda. So they are, because somebody has told him, so and so is in the California, look for him. Now I'm trying to connect him to somebody who processes coffee. You can imagine, from Rubirizi. So now, if coffee can sell here, maybe this is something that you can promote as Ugandan. And if there is anything that you would want, a link or an incentive or something from government, please feel free to use me as a bridge. I will take you to whichever office you would want to deal with. And even if it requires having a high-level discussion with government to engage on where possibly you want to gain, or maybe you want some exemptions or something like that. This is something we can arrange for you. I know there is a family in DC who are selling the kaijukas, who are selling the matoke, these bananas from vacuum bananas from Uganda, and they are doing very well. Here I ate matoke at Mabel's place, but I think they come from Latin America. They are not as good matoke from our place. Even the banana, you eat it because it's a banana, but it's not the real banana from our place. So I tend to think that possibly if, and yesterday we were in the Pacific, I really saw it is very easy, I think, when you pass through South Africa to get here. Maybe if we find a way, you worked with the government, there could be some incentives to bring some of those things here. And maybe when they come here, the taste might be different from those ones from Latin America, and maybe you find that you're benefiting some farmers in Ankole. But by and large, I would like really to commend your initiative to start this organization. I would like to really appreciate your good intentions to welcome other people who come to join you and give them safe landing, and also to keep the culture of Ankole even within your community, which is miles away from home. And I also would like to implore you that as you think of areas of investment, please think aloud and see how best you can promote those things from Ankole, including our milk. You are here, when you go to restaurants, they are selling skimmed milk. For us, we are there, busy taking milk with fats and whatnot. Maybe these are some of the things that when you gather your money, you can come and engage, and then, or maybe you start up a factory that can do things that we are not doing better there. And I would like to pledge my commitment and my availability to try and link you to whoever you want to meet, at least in government, to ensure that your initiatives and the kind of working you would want or assistance you would want from government, you receive it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sevo. And one of the first things to make amends, at least, is to acknowledge. Sometimes twohereza sente kukora ebintu zikora ebindi. I hope that we rectify that moving forward, and we shall definitely hold you accountable now moving forward, and with the few things you said. So, Mr. George, we are going to make this one a quick one as we conclude, because we are out of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Kakaire. I'm a Banyankore from Rwampara. As you all know, our village is in Nyakayojo, Mairo Mushanju. So I'm happy to be here. Now, I know I caught a lot of the discussions at the tail end of the day, but I just thought maybe I would shed some light on a few things. I want to appreciate the team of BKI that has really broken their backs to make this possible. It's been a long-awaited, David, as you have mentioned over the years. And a start is a start. I think the future will be great. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Now, speaking of the future, in light of time, I'm really glad that I've had the gentleman that is on holiday, fortunately or unfortunately, being from home and close to the people that make policy and are planning for our nation. We are here as Ugandans, definitely with a strong cultural grounding in Ankole, providing the leadership of this conversation. But a few things have stood out which probably can turn into something. Regarding finance, borrowing money, entrepreneurship, and our people being channeled in really strategic areas that are lucrative. I would say quickly that, as it was mentioned regarding what people should do, whether they should borrow money, I think the missing link for us as diasporans is the ability to understand how to create money, how to make $1. If I can figure out how I can earn $1 on top of the 5 I have, and I can master that, then I can invite 100 of you to join me and they become $50,000, right? And we can scale that idea. So among us, there are a few people that have started doing some work in different areas of, the economy at different levels. Some people have retail outlets, some people have service entities. There are different things. We have people making us food and running restaurants. Some people are renting out cars. Some people there are different things. Out of those things, something always gives back. And when you go to look for money, every investor is looking for a scalable idea to put money on. Scalable. Can it grow? Can my money grow? So if we answer that, then money can run on top of anything that can grow. The last thing I want to say is probably toward the government of Uganda, so to speak. How many entrepreneurs do we have in this room? If you own a business, raise your hand. Quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. David 9. David up there does. And so all of these people have a business unit that can grow. In his business, if I injected $100,000 today, I'm sure he would increase it. So if he's making $10,000 a month as a profit, maybe he can make 25 starting December this year. So the government of Uganda has an asset that it has not recognized. It is this cow here that you see in this room. These people are capable of making billions of dollars per an individual. But like we say, they have no access to funding. They have to save and then invest. The invitation to the government of Uganda is to recognize this value and put together an investment vehicle, because a business can't do a government cannot do private investment, but it can put together a vehicle through which these businesses can be supported. And the remittances that we send home now, they come from our little individual savings. And as diasporans, we are doing $1.4, $1.3, $1.1 billion a year. We're just dropping it into Uganda no debt. We're not asking anyone to pay us back. We're just sending it home. It's consumption remittances. If these businesses were to intentionally send their profits back home, imagine how much more our remittances would be per business. Now, there is a statistic I shared a few months back that is damning to close this out. In 2012, we sent about $700 million back home as remittances. By comparison, our Kenyan counterparts in the diaspora sent $600 million back home, 2012. 10 years later, we sent $1.1 billion. This is about 2021-2022 statistics. We sent about 1.1. It was a drop from 1.4 the previous year. Our counterparts next door, who were $100 million below us 10 years earlier, they remitted $3.5 billion back to Nairobi. Something in those 10 years changed for us, or something changed for them. What is that? A government program that prioritizes the value of the diaspora and specifically targets programs to encourage business owners, to arrange for them networking events, to show them what they can invest in their nation, and to support them where they need subsidized financing. It's syndicated financing for certain programs. And you know what? It is working by leaps and bounds. It is so serious that the new president, who is now very loud, like you can see, announced about 4 or 5 months ago that he is creating a ministry of the diaspora, a dedicated ministry, because we are a strategic value to any African country. So, like I said, that is, to our government, it's a bit of a large thing to chew, but the will is there. We are Ugandans. We will not change that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. So as we conclude, I'm going to give each of the panelists at least 1 minute to, with closing remarks, and then I send you guys out for a break, and then we shall return for tonight's activities. So we've started an amazing conversation today. We've ignited, and I feel like this was needed in the Banyankore Kweterana, but also in the Ugandan community at large. And I hope that this does not just stay here. It's not just rhetoric, but something that we shall actually expound on and really work on to make sure we see these changes that we've been talking about here. So I'll start with Derek, 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Stay seated. This has been a very fruitful evening, and I want to thank everyone who gave us their ears. And sometimes you talk to an audience and they are murmuring, they are talking about stuff, they're checking their Facebook accounts. But this has been a very attentive audience, and I really appreciate that. To conclude on what I came out to put out, like I said, my name is Derek Timer. I came all the way from Boston. I'm a financial professional, and my business is financial literacy. Every one of us needs financial literacy. So I talk about financial literacy as my job because I don't do anything before I educate anyone about anything, about any product. So before I even get you to, understand products and sign on to them, I must have a sit-down session with you and we must go through the basics, and I must look into your eyes and say, do you understand this? If you don't understand it, we'll plan another one, and we'll do it and do it and do it again until you understand what you have to do. So it doesn't come out like, somebody told me about this, I went, because very many people have gone for products that they didn't need. So I must assess your need, and after I've assessed your need, then I can recommend the best product, and once I recommend the best product, it will help you to serve you better, and you'll be committed to it as well. So my biggest product is life insurance, because it actually sums up everything, like I was saying, in a financial foundation. Those who missed it, I'm available. I'll be meeting you one-on-one, or you can write down my number. I'm free, and my education, interestingly, is free of charge. I don't charge a single coin to share with you this information. Not because you're Banyankore, no. But everyone that I talk to about financial literacy is done for free. My end game is, do you understand what you need to do, and have you done it? Is it better for you? Or after everything has changed for you? So that's what I do. And to conclude, I think if there's anything that I left out, I'm still available. If you're still around, I'm here till Monday morning. And my phone number, if anyone wants to write it down, is 857-333 and 4314. 857-333-4314. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you around.
Thank you, Derek. And I would just like to thank everyone that made time to sit through our very lengthy but very important conversation. We started today in the morning with what investments we can make in Ankole, and today we summed it up with investments we can make here in the United States that will enable us to invest back home in Ankole. So it's been such a wonderful privilege having everyone here. We have more programs. Since I'm part of the committee, I have to pass that kalango on. We have a wonderful entertainment evening tonight. We have a Sunday service tomorrow. We have the annual general meeting where we can discuss more of what it is we can do now that we've established this. And I thank everyone that participated, just as a piece of information. And we are very happy to have you from the Office of the President. Yes, we did actively inform the Ankole caucus, and they were very dedicated to coming until we got the visa snag. As a matter of fact, Right Honorable Tayebwa would have been the one closing the ceremony tomorrow. So some who were able to get online, like Honorable Kateshumbwa, we were able to get them. But they're very dedicated to this cause, and I know in future years when we've resolved our diplomatic situation, we'll most likely have a very big group in person. But we are very happy to have you here, and we'll definitely take that opportunity to utilize you as a way to get, as a window into the rest of the government. But in conclusion, for the particular parts I shared, like I mentioned, this panel was meant to just provide a variety of discussions in ways we can make our lives better here in the United States. I happen to have talked about the education and career, and I'm no expert. There are so many. When we were planning this, we made sure there are 2 hours to avail the ability to engage and talk to each other and network, because everyone in this room is an expert. I see everyone here that owns a business, has gone to school, So when you get this opportunity after we leave here, please engage, find out what each of you do so that we can start establishing these connections we need, because these are not the experts. The experts really were out there, and you could see that from the way you shared. So, but what I encourage all of us, in whichever way, whichever capacity we are in right now, we can do everything to make our country better. If you're in engineering, like some people I'm seeing here, there are projects you can start back home. I know some of you already do. I'm a public health specialist, and I'm constantly coming up with ways to work with Uganda, whether it's through politicians, through policies, and I'm even writing my PhD specifically about Uganda. Even when the data I have is for the United States, I insisted on doing the hard work and going back to my home country and contributing to its literature. So we can all contribute to our country back home in various ways. And I look forward to listening to some of the ways you're contributing. But above all, thank you so much for making time for Banyankore Kweterana International, first ever convention. Thank you.
Yes. Ba panelist banje abari aha nimbasima na moderator witu mubaherezo bugaro bakora umurimo gw'amani. Ninyenda kuhendera na quote ikigambo kikagambwa omuntu muhango omuri America. This quote was said by a very famous man in America who is a household name today in this country. The quote goes like, "Coming together is the beginning. Staying together is progress. And working together is success." The last three speakers in the audience was Dr. Sumpta and our guest from the President's Office, Omnyaruguru, and Mr. Kakaire. Your questions were so interrelated, they made my job easy to make my concluding remarks. Dr. Sumpta started with the premise of how do we get together as Banyankore or as Ugandans to raise money and do something, or to raise capital. And then after she said that, the person from the government said, "Oh, I'm here, Mr. Government. I can really get you some money." And then my good friend George said, "Hey, we diasporans are very strong. We remit so much money back home." And I think he was addressing the government, if I'm not mistaken. He said, "But you, Mr. Government, you are not doing this and this." He compared us to another country over a certain period of time. So when I read that quote, what inspired me to read that quote to you is the last part of that quote that says, actually the last two parts. We have come together. We are here. And our friends of Ankole. We are together. Let's clap for ourselves. We are here. And we need to stay together, ladies and gentlemen. We need to stay together from today forward. But working together will be the success. The government has to realize our importance. What does that mean? The system has to be organized. This is not a political organization, BKI. We're not here to call out the government. But I always tell people, no one on this earth is apolitical. What does that mean? Each one of us is somehow involved in politics, if we understand the definition of politics. Politics is basically a God-given right to manage our resources. How are we managing our resources? It's very simple. We have to do the right thing. We have to work together. As Banyankore, as Ugandans, we have to do the right thing. Why are we remitting 1.4 billion and not having a realization of that, a meaningful realization of it? You know, we need the government to help us. Tutuweka sente zitu kuombeka, sente baziba, oriya kukora mwenjawuro, just to mention a few things here and there. So I think the call was about being organized. God commands us to be organized in whatever we do. My dream and my partners that founded BKI, our dream is to be organized to the level that we can work together and become successful. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a wonderful first BKI convention on its second day. We are here to mingle, network, meet each other, and make progress. Make the progress we came here as Banyankore Kweterana. Agetire nogo korachi? Nogo gati gufa. God bless you all.
And then thank you so much, Omwami Deriki, Omchara, Sandra, President, Neumwe. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your days to be here and support this inaugural event. So as we go out there, Nyenda Twishche Ebintu that we talked about here, let us please seek those mentorships. Let us network. We had the privilege of this gentleman from the president of the president's office showing up. We had some well-wishers, the Mr. George Kakaires, we have Mr. Chigoye there, Sebo Nkulamusiza, Nkulabye. And let's hang around. They will be here around in the corridors, one that you are unable, to ask. Later on at night, at 7, we are going to get into the whole entertainment part of the, of the program. It's going to be fun. We have, it's cultural night, let's call it that. So, emienda, abachara, please, abasheshan bajwaro kohe, bajwarach, munyishi. Okay, whatever you have about me, you know, then we shall see you back at 7. So, and and bring your dancing shoes because it's going to be a fun night. Thank you so much once again. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
This is MPFM 93.7. Net 3.7 MPFM.com.
Tufune kati wannawoli osobola okutuwuliriza wonnawoli.
It's a click and listen.
Changu nnyo downloadinga app yaffe Radio MBFM otuwuliriza butereevu ku www.radiombfm.com. RadioMBFM.com, a home away from home.
The Banyankore Kweterana International, in partnership with Housing Finance Bank, present the first annual convention under the theme Skilling the Youth this Friday on 30th June to Sunday 2nd July at Hilton Woodland Hills, adjacent to the Warner Center, Los Angeles. Banyankore and all well-wishers, this is our time to come and share ideas, have fun, connect with so many activities and clear entertainment by our very own Ray G, Phoebe Ashaba, Big Spender and comedians like Pablo Comedy Vibes, accompanied by cultural performances like Ekitaguro and Michoboro. Not forgetting business investment workshops to help improve Ankole youth livelihood and promoting economic growth in the Ankole nation, demonstrating Ankole's culture, customs and heritage with cultural skits. We shall also have Housing Finance Bank discussing with us products including real estate, access to mortgages, plus life and medical insurance for diaspora families and account opening. Don't miss visiting Los Angeles points of interest like Hollywood Studios, Hollywood Walk of Fame, Beverly Hills, plus Santa Monica Beach. Registration goes for $250 adults, $150 for youths aged 12 to 18 years, children free, and $195 for hotel accommodation with discount of $50 off for a coupon from Housing Finance Bank. Register now through our website www.bkicommunity.org or call plus 1-818-398-3619 for inquiries and bookings. Sponsored by Golden Kitchen, Housing Finance Bank, MBFM Events, Bantu Fest, Farmers Insurance, Nash Events, Florence for Youth in Action, Saraiga Insurance, and Wakerzi.com. Come, let's celebrate Ankole's rich culture.
bora buzima ni muhimbisa yebarero gaba.
This is MPFM. Nes 3.7.
Being all the fight, all the hate, all the lies.
Net 3.7 MPFM.com.